Okay, hopefully this goes fine. Did you know that Jimmy Snow has a podcast? A little bit of a tech issue right there as we were trying to go live. I thought it was going to be fine, but then it wasn't fine, and then I had to change whether or not we're running this whole thing off of a GPU or a CPU, and I think we're actually running it off of a CPU now, but everything seems to be fine and stable and okay, so I guess that's fine. I'm Jimmy Snow. This is, I don't remember your name. No, this is Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. I don't think I have our name tags ready. I'm having a bit of a day, people. Y'all can abide.
Are you hosting and producing?
Yeah.
Oh man, what's up with that?
Ooh-wee, what up with that? What up with that? Yeah, I am doing both because I'm an overachiever. All right, there they go. Boom! Eric from SNS. You all know what it stands for sexy and skeptical. Find
Sneaky
Eric
and suspicious.
Sexy. If you type in sexy and skeptical into, somebody's got to take on that moniker. Years ago, speaking of taking on monikers, this is what it reminds me of. It's years ago. Josh Feuerstein. Do you remember him?
Josh Feuerstein. The name's familiar, but I don't remember.
Hey there, everybody. I'm going to take a second here. I wanted to bring up evolution. It kind of just sounds like Alex Jones. But
okay.
Years ago, he made a video called Dear Mr. Atheist, let me debunk atheism or the evolution in 3 minutes. And that's why I started my YouTube channel, and that's why I don't know if you know the history of me beyond the line, but I was Mr. Atheist was what I came onto the scene with a show called Dear Mr. Atheist, and it was directly in response to that. It was like, all right, there's no one. So in saying someone needs to take on the moniker, it was when I found out nobody called themselves Mr. Atheist. That I was like, it's so obvious. Why is there not a Mr. Atheist? And now, to this day, 6 years later or something like that, 7 years later, when I am recognized in public, including recently at my local grocery store in my little boony town, which was horrible. But anyway, when I am recognized in public, they almost always recognize me as, oh my gosh, aren't you Mr. Atheist? And so rarely as Jimmy Snow. Jimmy Snow, though, has a podcast. It's now out. The first episode's out tomorrow, or the next episode will be on Tuesday. Generally, we're looking at a schedule of Tuesdays and Fridays. Sometimes we'll do special shows and special things are going on. Sometimes we'll do early shows. Make sure to check out Jimmy Snow as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or at least for sure, Spotify, Apple, Audible, and then like a few other places. And it's 60 days leading to the election, political show, current events show. And check it out. You can see the development. Tomorrow, last night as I was falling asleep, I was like, how do I want to repackage doing this a certain way to try and further uniqueify the experience of listening and getting your news from this podcast versus other? And I thought of a fun little segment that we're going to call Upvote, Downvote. We're going to try that out, not tomorrow, but Tuesday. And I believe Tuesday I will be joined by Eve Was Framed for that. So that should be an awesome show. Make sure you check out Jimmy Snow as a podcast. Eric, what are you doing?
Nothing really, just doing some late summer stuff and nothing major on my channel, just joining some streams here and there. I think I have an upcoming stream with Pierce Watkins where we do some street epistemology stuff and smattering of other appearances, but most of all here on the line. So
where can people find you on Patreon?
I don't remember that. I remember last time you asked me this question.
It was just
I got so much grief. I got so much grief for the name. I think it was Skeptin Scound or something. I don't remember. I don't want to.
Yeah, what's
money.
The actual?
On Patreon? Patreon is patreon.com/skeptics and scoundrels.
The full thing spelled out, right?
Yeah, skeptics and scoundrels because they don't allow ampersands in a username like that.
Hey, did you see that? Remember when you had to make a new Patreon because you wanted to do monthly, and now the per creation is being forced? Everybody has to change to monthly, so you could have stuck with it.
Thanks, Patreon.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm gonna write an angry letter.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 characters you have to type after patreon.com.
Yeah.
If you want to find Eric, patreon.com/CaptainScoundrels. The Patreon for this channel is patreon.com/calltheline if you want to support. And if you want to check out the podcast that is exclusive for supporters. And guess what? We flip-flopped it. Arden hosted this week, and she questioned me. She was the host and I was the guest, and we talked about a bunch of stuff. It was a lot of fun. You can find me at patreon.com/JimmySnow if you want to support Jimmy Snow as a podcast. I guess we can get on to calls and sort of get on with it.
Sure.
I feel like I'm not. Let me put on my fake feel well performance. Okay, boys and girls and everybody
it's like a
else.
Switch.
No, I can't do it. I feel too much like shit. I can't fully switch it. God, you call fucking. If you believe in God, please call and tell us why. Because I think that tonight we're going to get a bunch of sophist, esoteric calls. And I'd like just a straight, real, honest call with somebody. In fact, let's make one of them polls real quick. Do you believe in God? Oh, shit, I have to switch where my keyboard is active. Do you believe in God? Yes. And I will call to defend now. Yes, but I can't defend it. Or no. There we go. A little poll going on. Give us a call. I would love a pleasant chat for once. Like I'm blaming everybody else for it. I kind of am though. It's just be honest. Just be honest. Just be honest. It's all you have to do. Yeah, we can get on to calls. Though part of me also wants to tell you some stories of some debates I got into online this week. The short version of one of the stories was this guy kept saying source, and we would give him sources, and then he would never give a source for any of his claims. And then when one time we did it to him, we went source, and he goes Google, and I was like, "That's not a source." He's like, "You
No.
sourced Google," and we said, "No, we sourced the specific law and told you to Google the text of the actual law by its title. We told you the CHIPS Act." And well, you could say anything. And no, Google the CHIPS Act. You can pull it up. You can see it says exactly. Broadly saying Google was his source. And then what was even funnier with this guy was he wanted sources that showed that the 2020 election weren't stolen. And so we listed multiple things, or that in general the elections aren't stolen, and that there isn't fraud, and that they can't. And so I was like, all right, cool. The commission, Donald Trump commissioned a review of the 2016 election where he guaranteed that this commission was going to go find 3 to 5 million fake votes cast in California. Their report found none. There was none. And in fact, when you adjust for what little fraud you ever find anywhere, it favored the Republicans. Number 2, William Barr's testimony as Attorney General to Donald Trump. Number 3, the Heritage Foundation website. And number 4, the Cyber Ninjas, as headed by Ron Watson, who was a pro-Trump group, did an Arizona audit themselves to find and they actually also discovered that when you adjusted for fraud, it actually took a few votes away from Trump. In other words, benefited him. And I'm not kidding. We listed those 4 things. Keep in mind, again, pro-Trump, 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 pro-Trump. William Barr, you could say maybe but was at least up to that point extremely pro-Trump. And he goes, yeah, but those are all left sources. The Heritage Foundation, the people
genetic
who created
much?
Project. No, but it's not even a genetic fallacy because it is that also. But it isn't true. It's untrue. The Heritage Foundation created Project 2025 and chose the conservative Supreme Court justices. What are you talking about? Anyway, let's do calls.
if you interact, just my 2 cents. If you interact with him again, you have a news source you can add to that list, and that's Trump himself, because he admitted that they lost by a hair. And
I don't find it that impressive. He said it sort of offhand, and I think when he's given an opportunity to check, he's like, no, we lost. They reported it. It was very close, but it wasn't. It was still stolen. It was definitely stolen.
It was enough to get Nick Fuentes angry at him. So yeah.
Why did we do this? Why did we? Everybody, we went, what was January 6th? And and because, fucking Nick Fuentes, it's so funky when you're like, when you imagine a leader of a white supremacist movement, you imagine more of a Hulk Hogan type, because it's like, how do you even exist? How does someone not just sneeze at you and you disappear because you were overpowered by their sneeze? And instead you get Nick Fuentes. It was like, anyway, all right, let's talk to Steve in Nebraska. Steve in Nebraska, you're on the line with Jimmy Snow, who has a podcast, and Eric. How are you doing? Oh, hang on,
Eric.
That was my fault. There we go. Start again. Say hello.
Hi. Hi, Jimmy. Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'd like to discuss evidence of us being simulated, according to Dr. Melvin Bobson's research findings recently published.
Steve, we just talked about this.
Right, but we didn't talk about this peer-reviewed article.
Okay, where is the peer-reviewed article?
The peer-review article appears in AIP Advances.
What is the name of the article?
Okay, the title of the article, for reference, is The Second Law of Infodynamics and Its Implications for the Simulated Universe Hypothesis.
The Second Law of Infodynamics and Its Implications
for the Simulated Universe Hypothesis.
Okay,
Correct.
And so they conducted an experiment, and since then the experiment succeeded, and the peer review scrutinized the experiment and replicated the experiment, and was able to find that it was consistent and that there is no method by which to debunk this.
Well, you're getting a little bit ahead of me here on this. So there is an experiment that we'll talk about.
Do you believe in God?
But I believe that we're simulated.
Okay, so who do you believe made the simulation?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea what's outside the simulation. How am I supposed to know?
Is the simulation programmed by something, or did the simulation come about by natural means?
Well, the simulation, and I'm just taking a stab at this because I don't know. I mean, we don't know what's outside the simulation, but perhaps it's an ancestral simulation. Maybe it's some extraterrestrial civilization just having fun. I mean, I could just speculate. I could go on and conjecture what's outside the simulation.
And where did you read the peer review of your? Where did you read the peer review of your?
Okay, the peer review appears in AIP Advances.
No, the publish of his article appears there. Where is the peer review?
So, like the website it's on, where it appears.
Yes.
Okay, let me go on to the website here. I'll give you the link to it. So hold on here. So.
Because I'm at the website right now, and the only mention or review on the website
under PUBS.
No, okay, I'm already there. Now you're once again just saying where the article is. I'm asking where the peer review is.
So the peer review, this article was published just recently. Doesn't that take time?
So where is the okay? So what you're saying is it is published and available for peer review. But peer review hasn't actually occurred or been validated. You called it peer reviewed earlier, so now you're withdrawing that and saying it can be peer reviewed.
I wish to. I wish to withdraw my claim of it being peer reviewed.
Great.
Thank you for your
So we
correction.
don't have a confirmation. We have an article with a published hypothesis, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Great. And what should a person derive from an unproven hypothesis?
Well, the paper concludes, quote, a super complex universe like ours, if it were a simulation, would require a built-in data optimization and compression mechanism in order to reduce the computation power and the data storage requirements. This is exactly what we are observing via empirical evidence all around us, including digital data.
Oh my goodness. You
systems.
literally had to admit that it hasn't survived peer review, and now you're basically saying without the benefit of peer review, my common sense concludes that the best explanation for these things that we are observing is the hypothesis here, which has not been actually verified, nor am I aware of any alternate hypotheses. I'm just going to guess this about you to explain those things and see what level of support and peer review those hypotheses have. So what you're doing is calling into a show about whether or not we should believe in God, where the evidence for God is, with a peer-reviewed. Excuse me, I said God. You're calling into a show about belief in God to explain to us that there is a hypothesis that is going to us, two non-physicists, despite the fact that we have physicists on the show, and basically saying your surface level understanding.
When are you going to have the physicist on?
We have Aaron on. We have Aaron on frequently, but why can't I finish my sentences? Can I finish my sentences, or this is just you today? Oh fuck! I forgot to put your name on the screen. I actually don't care.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go. I'm so sorry.
You even interrupted. You even interrupted again. I have autism, and yet I'm capable of not interrupting people. Capable.
Well, how are you? Well, you're different then.
Sure. That's hilarious. That's wow. Well done. Trying to caricaturize autism as the inability to not interrupt other people when no such, whether or not you feel impulsively like it, this idea that autistic people are incapable of learning self-control and therefore should not be expected to because you want an excuse to be rude is kind of ableist bullshit. Well done.
Steve, back to your topic.
You can go ahead.
Steve, is there anything that could be presented to you that will make you say, "Oh, you know what? Simulations theory is bunk. It's not true. I'm going to just drop it and never touch it again." Is there anything that could be presented to you that would make you say that?
Okay, bye. Not doing it. Whatever game this is now where you're being excessively silent, I'm just not doing it.
I was hoping he was actually genuinely thinking about answering that question. Maybe we didn't give enough time. But Steve, the point of that question was the evidence presented for simulation theory is weak. Okay? You can technically call it evidence, like the collapsing waveform of functions when particles are observed or whatever. I probably butchered that. Sure, evidence of simulation theory, because if you're simulating something, you only want to compute what you have to. So you're not going to collapse all these waveforms until somebody actually looks at them and your simulation requires it to solve that things to present it to the viewer. Like, sure, weak evidence. But it's evidence for other things too, for other functions of the universe. So good evidence is something that you can look at and examine, and it points to a small set of conclusions. The stuff, I haven't even read this paper yet, but I'm pretty sure if I looked into this, a lot of the stuff that would be presented could be explained by many things. Simulations being one of them, sure, but probably other things that are not simulations. So the reason I was asking that question was, what can possibly be presented to you to say, you know what, this is actually false? Because if nothing can be presented to you that simulation theory is false, or at least not anything worth looking into, then you have a worthless idea. You have nothing. You have no escape hatch out of a bad idea, if it is a bad idea. And I'm pretty sure it is, because there's lots of other natural explanations for what we see around us. So I'm hoping you were actually considering the answer to that question, but ask yourself, stop looking for confirmation of your theory, of your hypothesis, and start looking for falsification. Ask yourself, if this is false, then I would see this. And then go try to find that. And if you find it, then you know it's false. And if you can't think of anything, then it's not falsifiable and you have a useless idea.
Also,
Try that out.
I love an experiment or an article that actually, because I was pretty sure about this, but wanted to check on it. And I did, and it turned out to be correct. The thing I love the most is that the whole thing likes to cite and prop up these concepts of laws of infodynamics or information dynamics. And no such laws have been recognized or are widely used. There are things that are tangential sort of hypotheses as well. But this is basically going like, well, according to infodynamics, which is a term of my own invention, and I'm defining as this. And it's sort of this thing of like, you would first need that to survive peer review before you're going to rely on it to support your other stuff. I would just love to hear from an atheist who cares to be honest and not, sorry, a symptom of autism is that I can't help but interrupt.
This published article is over almost a year old. It's getting there. It's October 6th. It'll be a 1 year old. Nobody's reviewed this. Do we know of anybody who's reviewed it? Like, is it even worth looking at?
Right. Why is it that it hasn't gotten peer review? Why isn't
there's a
engage anybody in it?
Figure 2 talks about SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2. So I don't know what
of simulation theory.
It's in the article there. I'm looking at the screen. I'm just looking at the pictures because I don't read. But yeah, I see SARS in here. D orbital stuff. Like, okay, universe expands, entropy increases, time. Like figure 9 isn't even a useful figure.
I'm gonna do this one extremely quickly. Cameron, this show is about why God exists, and I can only give advice. I can only talk about how I live with autism. I'm not. If you need advice on living with autism, you need to engage a mental professional. It's not the topic of the show tonight.
No, I was just curious. I'm not. I don't have autism.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, put it in a super chat or something sometime that I'm doing the open Q&A part, but that's not the topic tonight. Thanks, Cameron. Don't even know why that one was through because that would have exceeded our atheist thing anyway. Waiting to see. We've got somebody who says they have evidence for God, but it might be. Am I getting a message from? Sure, I don't give a fuck. Honest theist, please call in. Please call in. Please call in. Honest theist, please call in. Please, please, please. Unless that person was banned. But yes, honest theist, we'd love to talk to you. Cloud in North Carolina, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Sure do. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Just peachy. What's your question?
If Eric is speaking, I can't hear him.
Eric is not yet spoken.
Cool. Okay. Question, I guess, would be, how do you deal with family members that after you've spoken with and basically just realize that they literally said to you, there's no amount of evidence you can show me to change my opinion about the Bible, that they keep sending you articles and keep having brothers come to your, or priests, I guess, come to your house to try to speak to you to get you to come back to a congregation. Because it's getting to the point of it was my mom doing it, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's starting to become a problem. And every time I try to think of a way to deal with it, it's only going to end badly. So I want to see if you guys have had to deal with something like this that didn't end, and cutting off your own mother, do you have a way?
Yeah. So I have a little bit of experience with this, but not too much because my family's very small, and I think I've only got maybe one member that I've had to contend with on this front also, at all.
It's a lot of silence, so if Eric is speaking, I can't hear him.
I don't know why. The last caller I thought heard him. Actually, he never did respond to you. Maybe that's why he never responded.
That might be it too. Yeah. Can the folks? The folks in the audience hear me, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me figure it out.
I think I had some bad laughs at some laughs at my bad joke earlier.
You don't hear Eric at all, huh?
Cloud, you
Not
there?
At all. The whole time I've been waiting here that he's been speaking, I thought it was maybe it'll change when I actually get on call, but no, I haven't heard Eric speak this entire time.
That's weird.
Even when I was waiting.
Weird. All right, let me see if it's.
So the audience hears me, but the caller does not.
I think he'll hear you now. Go ahead and try out.
Cloud, you there?
Yep, there we go.
Hey, okay. All right. Yeah, so, well, before Cloud, we go into that, Steve, previous caller, sorry you couldn't hear me. We assumed you were able to,
I'm
but it
not.
was
I
technical
done
issues.
with the call anyway.
I want to talk to him a little bit. That's fine. All right, so yeah, Cloud. So I haven't had to deal with this too much because I have a small family, and I've only had like maybe one member of my family that is still in, that we've butt heads on very rare occasions over 15 years. But there was your question was two-pronged. One was you're speaking to your mother, and basically she says that there's not a thing you can tell her that will unseat her confidence in the Bible, and by extension unseat her confidence and faith in the religion. So that's like the first one. And then the second one is she's also return firing like back to you with like sending elders to your house, sending individuals to come and talk to you and try to get you back in. Is that a accurate summation of kind of the dilemma the two problems you're dealing with right now with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to kind of divide and conquer this, when you have somebody who is so deeply seated and so dogmatic and so kind of unyielding with their belief, in my experience, it usually stems from a few things. One is they are either afraid of being wrong. They might have like this, well, I've sunk so much of my life into this, I've given up so much of this, it can't possibly be wrong. So it might be their position on that might be coming from a place of worry and insecurity, even though they might not necessarily realize it. So directly assaulting their position or attacking their position, it might not be the best way to do it. What you want to do is you want to get them to do the thinking for the question. And that involves asking questions, which is kind of like why I like the street epistemology approach for individuals like that. You want to ask questions
So
like, okay.
I did do that.
Okay.
That's why
Did we speak
I did.
before about this? Like, I think did you call
Yes,
him
we have
before we spoke before?
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
I have called, I think both of you were on the show together at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have spoken about this. And I did that. So I got her to answer the questions. We talked like class stuff like, oh, there's slavery in the Bible. Talked about that.
Yeah.
Also talked about like a bunch of different things that have to deal with, things I have problems with. And every time I asked her about it, she said like whether or not this was good, she would be like, no. And she agreed with me that this wasn't a good thing, but then she would be like, but God did it. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, I don't, like, why?
Why? You may want to start approaching the conversation, if you wish to continue this with her, you may want to approach the conversation more at a fundamental level, ask for reasons for her confidence in this. Like you can ask her, okay, what is the number one reason why you have such confidence in the Bible? And it usually comes down to things like faith, things like witnesses are very popular for saying, well, where else are you going to find truth? Things like that. So if you can get her to identify why she is so confident in her belief in the Bible, and just tell her, let's just give me she'll probably have all kinds of reasons. Just say, hey, okay, just give me your best one, your best top two, and then start picking at those. If it's faith, then start comparing her faith to that of a Muslim or that of a Scientologist or a Mormon and say, how is your faith different than this person? How can you possibly measure such a thing? Get her to start, kind of more analyzing the fundamentals of it instead of going from a top-down level, go from a bottom-up approach. But here's the thing too. I'll wrap up here really quick. Here's the thing too. So it could be that she is so dogmatic in her position that she does not want to change, and she won't want to change. It depends on how old she is and how far along. That all has influences and factors into that. It may be just a case, and I'm not telling you this is a case or not because I don't know her, I don't know you, and I don't know the conversations you've had, but it could be the case that she's just not going to yield on it. And if that is the case, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what do I value more? Do I value changing her, or do I value maintaining whatever relationship I have with her? Were you ever baptized? I can't remember. Were you ever baptized as a witness?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. So that's good for you then.
It's probably going to be the second thing because I have gone through, like what you said, trying to go to like the more basic. I literally asked her why she has so much faith in the Bible, and it was just, she explained simply because it's what she was raised to believe, which was, at least she answered that honestly, I guess. But yeah, at this point, I think it's probably just going to have to, like you said, to choose one of the two. Like, do you want to save the relationship or just say fuck it?
Yeah. Well,
it was real hearing my own mother say that. It was like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fact that you're not baptized is a good thing for you, because then that still, depending on how strict she is with the teachings, that leaves the door open for a relationship. At least if you were baptized and you were disfellowshipped or an apostate or whatever, then that may put a much greater strain on the relationship than you currently are experiencing. So you're probably lucky in that regard. So that's kind of the first thing. Like, you analyze your priorities and see if this is something you really want to continue pursuing. If you both are enjoying the conversations, yeah, go ahead and do it. But it sounds like there's some frustration building there that may not be good for the relationship. And as for her sending elders after you, she's going to do that. She's doing that probably out of genuine concern. It's misplaced, but it's probably genuine kindness, genuine concern. She thinks your eternal destiny is at stake here. So she's going to probably do everything she can to try to help her son. But what you can do is, if you do decide that, hey, I'm just not going to pursue this conversation with her anymore, then you can make that deal with her as like, okay, fine, I will not attack any of your religious positions on that. If you stop sending these guys after me, you start making deals and bargains and saying like, I will show you this respect if you show me this respect in return. And if she can respect that and you guys can maintain a relationship, then that might be all you can hope for. Or if you do think that there's hope there for something, you might tap into something you haven't gotten before, ask the right questions, get her to think, get her to doubt something, and then start analyzing that and magnifying it. Then you could do that too. But that's only a choice that you can make using the information you have. And I think Jimmy's got a few things to say, but
yeah, I have a couple things. First of all, with family and parents, for your own sake, you should set boundaries and then enforce those boundaries. So listen, Mom, you got to stop setting these elders. It really annoys me. It bothers me, whatever else. And if she wants to have boundaries in the inverse of like, cool, well, I don't want to talk about stuff or whatever, you should respect those, but definitely don't just lay boundaries, enforce them when they're broken, because she probably knows that she shouldn't be doing it and is doing it anyway. Second of all, I don't know of a single atheist who deconverted their parents in the YouTube atheist sphere. I know atheists whose parents also left, and they are now friends and they are bonded or whatever, but that the reason why their parent left or stopped believing was specifically a result of the conversations. I know one or two who maybe were like, I'll entertain this because I'd rather keep the relationship, and then again, ultimately fell out on their own terms. Even myself, who left Mormonism around 2008 and was the first one to leave my family, from my family. I now have a brother and two brothers and a sister who left. And I can honestly say that while my being out gave them somebody to talk to about it when they were ready, I wasn't actually the reason why they left. And it wasn't necessarily our conversations, except for maybe in small part, like, yeah, I remember we did have this conversation, and eventually I revisited that in my mind. Dealing with your family is different than dealing with other people. They saw your private parts when you were a baby, and there's something about that makes it easier for them to dismiss you, especially parents I'm referring to. They changed your poopy diapers, right? And so if they want to dismiss you, there is this concept of everything you are came from me and I built it and such. And so if I just on the grounds of going, I consider myself more wise and superior to you, want to dismiss you, they can. And so I would say that usually when it comes to family, what you have to evaluate is the value of the relationship and whether or not you want to keep it, and probably let go of any ideas with them as they are, let go of any ideas of trying to save the relationship by saving them from their own stupidity, because stupidity is strong.
And my experience with that too, Cloud, is that when I deconverted, I faded, basically. I kept it very much close to the chest, just to myself. I didn't broadcast or to make a big deal about it. Although my process will be different than your history because you never were baptized. I was baptized and I was a ministerial servant. I was pretty heavy involved in the congregation and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, when I faded, I kept things very close to the chest, kept my answers to questions vague. Just dangled that carrot of, when I'm feeling better, I might head back, even though it wasn't necessarily true, but it's what allowed me to maintain the relationships that I valued. And my dad, at first, he kind of knew what was going on, and he pressured me every year. Now, he never pressured me to go to meetings or anything like that, but he pressured me to go to the memorial every year. And I decided, okay, I will go to the memorial every year because it's 45 minutes of my life in exchange for hopefully not dealing with, weeks and weeks of, fallout of not going to the memorial. But then things change after that. He stopped asking me. he himself stopped going to meetings. He started reading and watching things online. And then he approached me and started asking me questions. And at that point, that's when I started openly and actively engaging him and being more critical, more, I don't want to say hostile to the witnesses like I am maybe on a live stream or something, but just engaging in the conversation, asking the questions, asking, why do you feel that way? What changed in your view of this that made you start doubting these things, and start exploring those things? And 5% of it's on you to ask the right questions and have the right conversation. The other 95% is on your parent or whoever you're talking to then walk away from the conversation feeling safe and then doing their own thinking. Because if there's like a frontal assault on the belief, their shields are going to go up. They're going to become even more entrenched in it, because that's exactly what witnesses tell you. If you're persecuted, that's obvious evidence that this is the true religion. They're going to take that, and any type of like force in the conversations is going to backfire and just entrench them further. So it can be just a matter of just sit back and wait. It may or may not happen. Enjoy what you got with your mom and do your best to preserve it. And then if things start to slowly shift or change, and things have shifted and changed quite a lot, like COVID was a big thing. People not being able to go to meetings and getting away from that social reinforcement. Lots of people woke up. Lots of people just started questioning. And once they weren't having to be brainwashed every 2-3 times a week, they started waking up. They started having a conversation with their family, and then lots of folks got out. I just had an interview in a live stream with Jake from Alt-Worldly. I don't know if you're familiar with that channel. He's a great XJW channel, but he woke up during COVID. I think his wife also woke up during COVID. So just sometimes just sitting back and being patient is all you really need to do.
No, they got woke.
They got woke. They got woke and they got woke up. Yeah.
All right, Cloud. Appreciate your call.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Good luck, man. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Cults suck. Cults really suck. Anyway, go ahead.
They really do suck. Brian in Illinois, you are on the line with Jimmy and Eric, and it kind of sounds like you're in a car. Are you in a car?
No, I was in a car, but I'm just chilling in a parking lot, so we're all good. I don't know if you remember my call from last week. I called you, and I will admit to you that I was stupid. And I re-listened to our thing, and like the question that you were asking was actually a very good question, but I, for some reason, couldn't understand what you were saying.
And the question referring to was that I asked you if you knew that Jimmy Snow has a podcast available on all platforms.
And it's an amazing podcast. I love it. It's enjoyable.
Appreciate it.
I don't agree with you, but I do love your podcast.
You like to hear me be disagreeable, at least. All right, Brian, go ahead. What was the real question?
Yeah. So it was, you were asking me when I re-listened to it, you were asking me, because I said, if we lose Christianity, where do we go from there, right? And the thing is I kind of thought about it all week, and it's actually a great question, because like I like to ask, like, if we got to start from zero, where do we go? Like,
Ryan,
like how do we?
But we don't have to start from zero, right? I'm already an atheist and I'm managing without Christianity. Eric's already an atheist and managing without Christianity. Millions of people are already atheists and manage without Christianity. Thousands of communities exist that even amongst Christians that don't actually invoke Christianity, right? There's lots and lots of, we don't, not only do we not have to start at zero, we don't even have to start low. We're capable of organizing communities. We're capable of taking care of each other. So don't worry about starting from zero, but go ahead and continue on with the more specific question was, what is it that we would lose that we don't either already have, or humanity would be less without?
Yeah, so I would say, you understand, like, there's certain people with certain dispositions, as in, like, we all have our own feelings. So, like, for example, for me, is I came to Jesus and the Christianity, like, I left and I came back because of the logical expressions of Christianity. So I feel personally, one of the things that bothers me is that
you left or you went back because of the logical expressions of Christianity?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You said you left Christianity or you went back because of logical expressions of Christianity?
I went back.
Because of logical Okay, we're definitely going to dive in on that in a minute, but go ahead and finish your point.
Yeah, I know that. So, like, actually, I feel personally is that Christianity holds me back because I feel like there's like a point that I feel like God is in control of things, so I'm allowing God to get in control of things. But if God wasn't in control, and I knew God, like if you were able to prove that God does not exist, there's so, and I actually have tons of atheist friends, great people. It's not against atheism, but
I know. Go ahead, get to it. Say what you're wanting to say. That what would stop me from raping and murdering if I didn't believe God exists, right? That's where you're getting to?
No, that was horrible. And
okay, well then what is the overall point? What is God what is the fact that you believe in Christianity holding you back from doing, and what is the secular alternative that would for sure fail instead?
So that's a weird question, but I'll explain it like this: is I think you would agree, and I don't know if you know too much about it, but there's certain ideologies. So, like, the question is that
Brian, let's do this so efficiently. I promise I'm not going to just jump down your throat. I'm asking a question. Just answer the question. What is Christianity? You said Christianity's holding me back. What is it holding you back from doing?
It's holding me back from being very violent towards certain ideologies.
What ideologies would you be violent toward if you were not Christian?
Islamic and some atheist ideologies.
If you weren't Christian, what about atheism would still offend you that you would want to be violent toward? First of all, there's no such thing as an atheism ideology.
But it's not so like that. If you don't mind, I appreciate you and I appreciate the conversation. It's not about atheism because I have tons of atheist friends that are just great people.
Let's go toward Islam. If you didn't believe in God, what about living in our society where the only way you are allowed to just be violent toward Muslims is joining the American military? Otherwise, you're not allowed, right? So we actually, Brian, hang on, let me finish. And you would have gone through an experience, if you no longer believed in God, that you would understand that you were wrong, but you believed very thoroughly. And you're basically trying to make the case to us that it wouldn't be possible for you to go, look, they're wrong, and I accept that they're wrong. I'm sad that they're wrong, but they're wrong, and I dislike that they're wrong. So I'm going to fight against that ideology in a way that is effective. No, that's impossible. What I will actually do is what? Have a violent outburst toward your Muslim neighbor? How would that violence express itself? What is Brian, you're telling me that inside right now, you want to violently harm a Muslim. Which Muslim is it that you want to violently harm?
No. See, I actually had this conversation
Brian,
with
is what you
Seth
just said.
Matt.
Brian, you said that the thing holding you back is your Christianity. So we take away the Christianity. That means the desire is there, and now you're going to do it. So what right now is the violent impulse you hold toward Muslims? What is the specific violent act you're wishing you could do? And who is it you would do it against if you didn't have Christianity?
No, so I just want to express this. I want to make sure you understand. Do you know anything about Islam?
Tons. I imagine, Brian, much more than you know.
No, that's probably not true.
I imagine it is, Brian, because I actually am capable of debating Muslims with enough knowledge for them to be disturbed by how much they thought they were going to get over on me when they attempt to pull out their bullshit.
No, that's all good.
So go on.
You would agree that there's a massive, like, whether you believe in Jesus or not, that's all cool. But you would agree, please agree with me that there's a huge difference between Christianity and Islam.
No, I wouldn't agree. There's actually not a huge difference. There is a difference in what right now you could say moderate Islam looks compared to moderate Christianity. Moderate Christianity these days, where the center is a little bit more progressive, but that has a lot more to do with the economic situations that are happening in the Middle East as a result of American and Western imperialism than it necessarily has to do with the religion. But the religion isn't helping. They are both violent, apocalyptic death cults that make good people evil and justify the evil in good people.
Yeah, and Brian, Islam's derivative of Christianity, and Christianity is derivative of Judaism. So there's a lot of overlap there, and there's a lot of crap in the Torah and the Old Testament. So they share
I would
a lot
agree with
of
you,
that.
like the Old Testament it's very complex, and like we all have to work through that for sure. I'd agree with you, but like Christianity is the New Testament.
It's actually not that complex. And no. Christianity is the New Testament and Old Testament, according to Jesus in the New Testament, where he came and said he did not come to change the law, not even a tittle. He's fulfilling the law and continuing the law. And he believes that you should continue on with the law. Not even a tittle, you seafood cross fabric wearing bastard.
I think I've been very respectful, and then you want to come with that. I think we
Brian,
can all agree.
Oh my God.
That was a joke.
Down.
Brian, Jimmy was joking about descriptions in the Old Testament, not of you.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is Christianity is not.
I think we all.
Christianity is not only the New Testament. I know because people like you, Brian, tend to use the Old Testament to justify their discrimination toward queers.
So, all right. I won't get into that because that's not actually what I was calling.
And because you'd lose.
I could call someday, and I think we can have a good conversation about that. But my only point being is like, if you take Jesus if you're an extremist Christian, what you would wind up having is
the Crusades, genocides.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If you were an extremist Christian, the worst you could have are genocides, the Crusades, Nazi Germany.
No.
Yeah, all of those.
Come on.
All of those.
Come on.
All of those.
Let's be honest, man.
No, Brian. You don't get to say no. All of those were Christian movements. American slavery was a fundamentalist Christian institution. So the worst you get out of extremist Christianity is genocide and slavery.
Yeah, and you realize that I actually called the Sunday show last weekend, and I justified ancient slavery.
No. You might have made an attempt to justify. If you justified it, that would suggest.
That's all good.
That would suggest that you successfully convinced anyone at the Sunday show that biblical slavery is justified. Brian, it doesn't matter whether or not you even believe that. It is a point of fact that if you look back at slavery in this country, that extremist Christians used the Bible to justify it as not merely a civil institution, not merely a legal institution, but a godly institution. That is the history of this country. So we are talking about, you were about to say that the worst you get out of extremist Christians was probably going to be some kind of Bernie Sanders bullshit, when in fact we've had extremist Christianity in just the last 3 centuries, and it gave us the genocide of Jewish people and other people, mind you, in the Holocaust, and American slavery.
Hold on. Let's just be honest. Let's be respectful. Is the Catholic Church denounced Nazi
after
propaganda?
the fact? Excuse me, Brian. After the fact, the Catholic Church celebrated from the pulpit Hitler's birthday. The Catholic Church was the first. Yes, it is, Brian. You don't get to lie and be a fucking Holocaust denier on my show. You are trying. You are trying to engage in an aspect. No, Brian, do not interrupt me again. You're trying to engage in an aspect of Holocaust denialism. I assume you believe it actually existed. Brian, stop interrupting me. Whether or not you actually believe in Christianity does not change the actual facts. The first treaty Hitler ever did was with the Vatican. The Catholics, not only were the Catholics heavily responsible for the anti-Semitism that led to the anti-Semitic propaganda so we're literally talking about, you don't get to say the Catholic Church, after bastardizing Jews for centuries and blaming them as killing the Lord and secretly running the organization and being these second-class citizens, that was from the pulpit, institutional for centuries leading up to World War II, that even if at that moment they disavowed, which they did not, they didn't until after, even if then they disavowed, you do not get to deny that institutional foundation that they provided. And that is why, guess what? So many actual Nazis were themselves Catholic and did not see any conflict there.
No.
Everything I just said is true. You're going to have to provide sources if you're going to claim that any of it is not.
I will. That's
great.
I could provide. I didn't come for a professional debate.
Don't make any claims you're not ready to support.
Hold on. Can I let you talk? I'm super respectful.
Actually, I
totally
let myself talk, and when I decide to, I let you talk as well, even when you are engaging in Holocaust denialism.
I never. That's ridiculous. I never did that.
Yes, you did.
But my point being is the Catholic Church excommunicated Hitler in 1932 as soon as he got into the Hitler Nazi Party, and you are not allowed. And everybody can look it up. You are not allowed.
I actually already did. That is not true.
Oh my God!
He was not.
I let you talk. Can you just let me talk?
Sir, you did not let me talk ever, Brian. I let you talk. That's how it works, and I will always interrupt what is once again Holocaust denialism. You are currently muted. If you make a claim like that and it is an outright lie, you will be called on it. Hitler was never excommunicated from the Catholic Church. I'm not even sure he was ever formally recognized as one. He was born into a Catholic family. He never formally renounced it, and there is zero historical record that he was excommunicated.
You are not allowed to be a Catholic and a Nazi. You can look it up. Everybody can look up the polls if you want to. Southern Germany was mostly Catholic.
Wait! Stop! Move back. Are you going to take back what you said about the excommunication? Or are you now going to try and move on?
He was
to a new point.
Hitler was excommunicated in 1932.
Where is your source
from the Catholic Church?
Where is your source that he was excommunicated from the Catholic Church?
Like I said, I'm sorry, I don't have.
Then I dismiss it offhand.
Anybody can look it up. Hitler was excommunicated in 1932.
Then I dismiss it offhand.
Dude, I didn't come from a formal debate. If you wanted me to, I could, but I'm not going to sit there. I could look it up right now if you want.
I know where you can find the claims.
You were not allowed to be a Nazi.
I know where you can find the claims. Stop trying to talk over me. You cannot find evidence that it ever actually happened. You can only find evidence that Catholics later claimed it happened. You cannot find any actual evidence of it.
I'm not a Catholic, but I'm just telling you you're wrong.
Yeah, and you are literally wrong. I don't care if... Great, everybody look it up. Everybody look up and find not claims that he was excommunicated, but the actual proof he was formally excommunicated by the Catholic Church. I agree, Brian. Everybody look it up and find out whether Brian or I is correct. And by the way, Brian, if you're not actually Catholic yourself, the claim here was not that the Catholics caused the Holocaust. It was that Christians did. Self-identified Christians. And the Nazi movement relied on Christian propaganda and Christians themselves and their hatred of Jews to do the Holocaust. This is why those individuals, when they were marching around with their belts that said God mit uns, God with us, it didn't say Allah mit uns, it said God, because they were referring to the Christian God. They certainly weren't referring to the Jewish God. They weren't referring to any Hindu gods. They weren't referring to any pagan gods. They were referring to the Christian God, and they saw, and you can see this in the speeches from Hitler, as well as the propaganda that was distributed throughout, that the German conquest of the world and destruction of the Jews was a mission from God. Period. Those are the facts, and your attempt to be Brian, you are going to say it's not true and then just say everybody look it up. I've looked it up. I've read myriads of books on the matter. Brian, what?
You failed,
and yours are assertions, and everyone look it up. Go find the things that support what I say and accept them offhand. That's your argument, Brian. You can't even bring to me any source that disagrees with what we already know.
Oh, I can bring you some sources. Martin Luther was a piece of shit, and we can all agree on that.
Wow, you brought me a source that has nothing to do with what we are talking about.
Yeah, no, Northern Germany was Protestant and part of Martin Luther, and Martin Luther, I would agree with you, and 100%, I would put my arm around you to say, I agree with you that Martin Luther was a piece of shit. Southern Germany was Catholic, and if you look it up, Southern Germany was Catholic and did not vote for the Nazis. That was the lowest. So what happened?
Hey! What happened? No, you can't. No, you can't. You cannot keep repeating your Holocaust denial bullshit and be unchallenged. What does Reichs Concordat stand? What does Reichs Concordat mean?
When have I ever denied the Holocaust?
You are engaged. I didn't say you full out said that the Holocaust didn't happen. Denying the aspects of it that led to it, the history that led to it, the very things that we should pay attention. Brian, bullshit. Shut the fuck up. You don't get to interrupt me. Hey, again, I let you speak. You don't let me speak. This is the way it works, Brian. You are here saying that these elements of the Holocaust didn't happen. Whether or not you believe the Holocaust at large happened is not the entirety of Holocaust denialism. The things we need to take note of, to pay attention to, are the things that are important to continue to have it as details of the Holocaust. And your denialism is part of the denialism that leads to other genocides not being prevented, much like ones that are happening right now. Literally at this moment, that is essentially based on a biblical promise from a book that isn't true, a genocide that is happening that America is supporting because a large amount of America is really stoked that the Jews are the custodians of that land for us, so that one day when Jesus comes back and punishes all of them, they kept it clean on our behalf. There are literal theological custodial servants. That is the denialism you are engaging in and the consequences of that denialism. If you want to continue this conversation...
Can I ask you a question?
You can answer my question.
When have I ever talked about any of that? You're making
you can answer my question. You can answer my question. You can answer my question. What is Reichs Concordat?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What is Reichs Concordat?
I have no idea.
So you know so much about this and Christianity's involvement with World War II, with the Holocaust, but you aren't aware of the literal treaty signed in 1933 between Hitler, the Nazis, and the Catholic Church. You're not familiar with that at all, huh?
So that's complicated, and you're being
it's complicated. It's complicated that Hitler signed a treaty with the main goal of protecting, what was it? What were they protecting with that treaty? Was it Catholic rights? Was that what it was? Was it making sure that they would still have influence in German education? Was that what it was? Was that what they did in that treaty? That's so weird. It's very complicated.
Are you trying to say that, a group of people that were being oppressed should not have an agreement with somebody that's the oppressor?
So Brian, what you are saying is what you said earlier, which was that I lied when I said the Catholic Church had a treaty with Hitler. Now you are admitting
Yeah,
I did not, in fact, lie. Shut the fuck up until I'm done, Brian. I, in fact, did not lie, that you lied, and now you are trying to special plead your way out, and now you're saying the oppressor had a treaty with the oppressed, which they should have done, where the oppressed maintained significant governmental, influential, and propaganda powers, despite the fact that those were the things that got us to the mess in the first place. Brian, are you capable of having a conversation about this honestly? Can you not just look back and go, look, Christians fucked it up. Shut up. Christianity was great when Jesus was here. Jesus was the best Christian. And then we did 2,000 years of being shit Christians. And now we have an opportunity to be good Christians again, because when evil people get power and Christianity is promoted by those evil people, you end up with things like the Holocaust. But now with the mass distribution of information, thanks to the internet, we can spread the spirit of Jesus Christ instead of the scapegoat or the mythical figure that we ask people to act on behalf of and try to spread a spirit. Brian, I could seriously do this so much better than you, and I wouldn't have to lie like you've done almost every time you've opened your mouth.
How have I lied, my friend? Like,
engaging in Holocaust denialism. You said that I lied when I said that Hitler had a treaty with the Catholic Church. Did I lie or not?
He had a treaty.
Yep.
But like the Catholic,
so did I lie or not? Yes or no? Did I lie when I said the Catholic Church and Hitler had a treaty together?
That wasn't what I was saying you were lying about.
Oh, weird, because you said it was.
No.
So you lied when you accused me of lying.
No.
Yes.
My friend.
We're not friends.
I actually enjoy
I'm not friends with Holocaust deniers.
I'd love to like spend a night with you, kind of thing. Like
Gross.
Have some drinks and have a good time. Like you're
don't
a great dude.
Don't know what the point of you saying all this is.
Because my point being is you can't deny the Catholic Church.
Yes, I can.
Can I just give me a minute?
I can deny the Catholic Church all day long. And Brian, hey Brian, here's the best part. Your fundamental thing when you called in was, without Christianity, God wouldn't be able to hold me back from my violent impulses. Yeah, well, guess what? Guess what, Brian? Hitler was born into Christianity, and Nazis were largely Christian.
Hitler was not part of Christianity.
Yes, he was born. Brian, how can you say that if you, Brian, how can you say, first of all, he wasn't excommunicated. There is no formal proof of that.
Dude,
Brian,
Hitler was
I am muting you if you're just going to repeat your claim that is not evidence. So I'm now going to finish my point and you're going to stay on mute. The Nazis were largely Christian. Hitler claimed Christianity and was born into it. And whether or not he was excommunicated, right now there's no formal evidence of it. So there is no reason to believe it. There are only claims like yours. And then when challenged on it, you didn't provide proof of the claim, you just restated the claim. Restating the claim is not additional evidence, nor does it require additional rebuttal when it's already been rebutted. Both of those groups, those people, the Nazi movement was largely Christian. Why did their Christianity not hold them back from violence toward what they conceived as a opposing religious group, the way you're saying Christianity is holding you back from being violent toward a religious group you don't like? That is the question you may answer, because I am allowing you to speak now.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. So anybody could look it up. Hitler was excommunicated.
Nope. I'm muting you again. We have already been over it. If you restate the claim one more time without actually providing the evidence, I already looked it up after already telling you what I was correct about. There are only claims. The Catholic Church and the individuals making the claim have no formal evidence that this ever occurred. There are only stories of it, much like you can look it up. Darwin on his deathbed confessed to believing in God. You can look it up. You can look it up. And at best, you can find a person 2 times removed from him who claimed that. Your evidence are other people making the claims, not any formal evidence. So now, once again, answer the question I asked. Why were the Christians who were Nazis not prevented by their Christianity to violently impose themselves upon an opposing religious group the way you're saying your Christianity prevents you?
All right. So I cannot stand Martin Luther. I hate all his ideology. I would, with you, put my arm around you.
Stop with the with you. Answer just the question.
I am.
No, you aren't. If you want to say because they followed Martin Luther, because they were Protestant.
Fuck Martin Luther. He's a piece of shit.
Because they were Protestant, Brian. What are you? You said you're not Catholic. You said you're not Catholic. What are you?
I'm kind of leaning towards Orthodoxy.
Oh, so you're not Catholic. You might be Orthodox Catholic.
Yeah. No. Orthodox. It's different than Roman Catholic.
Orthodox what?
Orthodox Christianity.
Okay, so you are a non-Catholic Orthodox Christian, but not a Protestant. What does that word Protestant mean again?
It means they're fucking assholes.
What does the word Protestant mean? You said that you're the one not lying.
Assholes.
Nope, the word Protestant does not mean that. Are you drunk, Brian? Have you been drinking this evening? Because you are behaving like an...
I always drink like a fucking asshole.
Are you actually drunk?
Probably.
Okay, don't waste our time ever again, Brian. You're banned from the show. Brian's banned. Just for the record, for all call screeners in the future, I'm not wasting my time with Holocaust denialism on a person who repeats the claim and wastes our time by calling in fucking drunk. Brian is banned. Never again.
Not even repeats the claim. No, it's fine. You were on a roll there. I don't want to get in the way. But no, I was looking up a few things while you guys were talking, and yeah, the Reich Concordant is the first of a series of treaties signed between the Catholics and the Nazi Party, started in 1933. So I was like, directly refutes his claim that no treaties were signed. And I find it really peculiar that, yeah, if the Catholic Church did take some type of stand against the Nazi Party in the early 30s, they really rolled that back and then got really cozy with them later on once they realized that their interests and prospects were threatened in Germany and potentially in Europe if Germany ended up winning the war. So it's really funny how, if you look back at that history, and I'm by no means any expert, how their convictions and how their values crumbled when it came to the reality of, oh, wow, we might have to live with these guys for a long time. But yeah, look up Reich Concordant, look up the numerous photographic and recorded evidence of the Nazi Party and the Catholic Church working together. And I wanted to get to the original question about, like, what's holding him back from being a violent jerk asshole to people he doesn't like. And Brian, you're banned, but if you're still listening, ask yourself these 3 questions. These are the 3 questions I had lined up before we got into fucking Nazis. Do you feel bad for others when bad things happen to them? If you see a little girl lose her father, do you feel bad for that person? If you see an animal get hurt, like hit by a car, do you feel bad for that being? If your answer is no, you might be a textbook medical psychopath, which is a completely different thing. But if you do feel empathy for others, that's a good reason not to be violent to people you don't like. The second thing is, do you want a generally happy and safe world for everybody? If the answer is no, you're an asshole. If the answer is yes, then yeah, that's why you shouldn't be violent to other people. And then even just pragmatically, do you want to stay out of prison, Brian? Do you want to, maintain your freedom to do the things that you want to do? Then that's a good reason to not hurt others. Boom, 3 things right there. No Christianity required. You don't need Christianity to do this. In fact, I would go out to say that Christianity is fueling your hatred for others. You are looking at Christianity as the cure when it is the poison that is going through your veins and into your mind because you think that you're superior to Protestants, the way you spit vitriol at the Protestant founder, which I don't like Protestants or Catholics. I don't like any religious group. I like the people just fine, but not the actual religious group and ideologies. But the fact that you're spitting such venom at these people is indicative of what Christianity's done to your mind. So tell you what, go sober up, think about these things, and just think, do I really want to be an asshole? Do I really want to call into these shows and make a fool out of myself and go up against Jimmy for the most part? I know I'm here just throwing shit now that he's off the air, but ask yourself these things, man. You have one life to live. Do you want it to be this, or do you want to do something better? Think about it.
It's really easy. What's wrong with you getting drunk and driving, you fucking moron? Yeah. I'm not going to do the nice. I'm not going to join Eric's good cop. It is to ever be unbanned, you need to email with a big fucking apology and a promise that you are never going to call into the show drunk again, you time-wasting sack of shit.
Yeah. And yes, I am not unaware that it is super easy to mouth off and tell a person off when they're non-linear. But that was what was on my mind when I was listening to that. I didn't want to get in the way of Jimmy because it was a heated conversation, and me starting to yell is not going to help at all. But yeah,
I don't
seriously,
fuck with Holocaust denialism. I can't do it.
And yeah,
didn't go well when Andrew tried that shit.
Who knows? Maybe he does. Maybe he's never experienced empathy in his entire life. Maybe he has that type of issue. And I'm not speculating saying that's the case or anything. It's a possibility, 1 out of 100, I think, statistically speaking. But if you do feel empathy, Brian, latch onto that, make it grow and cultivate it. It'll make you a better person.
He's going to cult to something. Mr. ID from Japan, you're on the line with Jimmy, who has a podcast, and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels. What's up?
Hello, good morning to all of you. It's morning here in Japan. Can you hear me?
Yep, sure do.
Okay, so I really would like to thank you for accepting my call.
You're welcome.
And the topic for today that you are discussing here, as written in the line YouTube channel that you're having now, is where is the evidence for God?
Correct.
Well, my personal answer for that, because I'm a freelance scientist, my answer for that is where is the evidence for God is the.
What kind of scientist are you?
Freelance?
Yeah, I'm a freelance scientist who discovered the topic of intelligence.
Where did you train, Mr. ID?
Where did I what?
Where did you train? Where did you get your scientific training?
Oh, I graduated in civil engineering.
You graduated in civil engineering.
I have a bachelor. I have degree in Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering.
Okay.
But because of the Dober trial, when Michael Behe and Kenneth Miller fought in the Dober trial, the battle was between intelligent design versus evolution, and the old intelligent design was defeated. So, on 2005, I set myself aside. I mean, I really seriously think, what is intelligence? Why?
Mr. ID, hey, Mr. ID, let me tell you this.
Yes.
If at any point you try to mention the title of your book, the call will be over and you will be banned from the show.
No, did I tell you about my book?
Nope, I just know that that's where you're going with it. So if at any point you mention the title of your book, because that's what I think you're really here to do, to try and sell your terrible book that has been hugely debunked, that you believe with your civil engineering background, you have successfully debunked intelligent design when you have not. If that is an attempt you make, not only will the call end, but you will never be on the show ever again. But if you want to engage on some specifics of the actual proposition at hand, we can do that. But you will not be here allowed to use this platform to try and market your shit.
No, I am not marketing my science book. I never said
well,
that
first of all, it's not a science book.
Okay. I just told you that the reason why.
Where did you learn biology? So you didn't learn biology during your civil engineering training. When did you learn biology? Where did you learn bio?
After I discovered the topic of intelligence.
After you discovered the topic of what?
Intelligence and non-intelligence. Intelligence.
After you discovered the topic of intelligence. Is that what you said?
And non-intelligence. Yes, correctly. You said it right.
Okay. So after you discovered the topic of intelligence, you learned biology. And where did you learn that biology from? Was it YouTube? Was it a book? Was it multiple books? Was it a web series? Was it a classroom? Where did you learn biology?
First, after I discovered the topic of intelligence, I applied that to biology, and I started first.
Okay, wait. You're not answering. Okay, hang on. You're not answering.
Okay.
I asked you where you learned biology, and you said after you learned the topic of intelligence, you applied it to biology, which implies you already knew biology. So that biology that you applied intelligence to Where did you get that? Because Mr. ID, I dare say, it sounds like what you are trying to say is, I came up with a common sense theory of biology hypothesis and have accepted it, and that I do not actually understand the theory of evolution, but I have a made up by my own musings and thinkings after, quote unquote, discovering the concept of intelligence, that I came up with a common sense version of what I think it is. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay,
That's what I'm
then
saying.
where did you learn the biology that you applied intelligence theory to, or your understanding of intelligence, however you put it?
First, biology is the study of life. I have life. We all see living organisms. You see plants. You see animals.
Great. Where
you
did
see
you get
everywhere.
your biology education? Are you saying that you got it from looking at the life around you? Or did you learn any pre-existing science? Got it. So what?
Yeah.
So you did not actually. Have you ever formally learned the pre-existing information of why we know evolution is true? For example.
What? Can you repeat again the question? What do you mean? What
could you explain? Could you give us evidences of the theory of evolution if we asked? Do you know what they are?
There are no evidence for evolution.
Could you, Mr. ID, could you give to us what science books say are the evidences of evolution, even if you don't believe it?
Okay. I got your question. So if you are going to, for example, cite one, according to evolutionists, according to supporters of evolution, that one evidence for evolution is, for example, the finches in Galapagos Islands, okay, the birds. So,
do you know any modern example, Mr. ID? You're referencing, you're sitting there referencing Darwin and his book. Do you know like modern day science evidence for evolution?
You're not even referencing the book. You're referencing what you heard somebody say is in the book.
Yeah. That was Darwin's observations with the finches. But Mr. ID, do you know any modern day pieces of evidence for evolution?
If I'm going to use the evidence that's used by my Kenneth Miller and
I asked you a very specific question. Do you know just Mr. ID? Just name me one piece of evidence that modern day scientists use to support evolution. Whether you agree with it or not, just what they say.
Yeah, one of the modern one that they're saying that support evolution is they said that, for example, in 2005, it's modern to 2005. They said that the chromosomes number 2, the fusion of chromosomes number 2, is a modern.
Okay, so, fusion of chromosome number 2. All right.
Or for example,
so what is the non? So let me ask you this: what is the non-evolution answer to why chromosome 2 is fused in humans?
So
are you asking me how to rebut that? Okay.
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Get us where we're trying to go, though. Anyway.
Well, let me try. One more time. One more time. Mr. ID, let's pretend evolution is false. What else explains human chromosome 2?
The Roman chromosomes 2 is based on intelligent design.
Okay. Can anything? So, Mr. ID, can anything not be explained with that answer? Could all chromosomes be fused? And you just simply say, "Well, it's intelligent design." Oh, Jimmy was born with his head upside down. That's just intelligent design. Like, can anything not be explained by that magic answer?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a useless answer.
There is a pattern between intelligent design and non-intelligent design that's supposed to be answered first by the evolutionists.
Mr. ID.
Okay.
It's a useless answer if it can answer literally anything.
Oh, you're asking me. So can you repeat again the question? Maybe I don't understand. Please.
Your answer of intelligent design can be the answer to literally any question. It cannot be falsified. It's a useless answer. It's as useless as fairies did it, or unicorns did it, or simulation theory.
remember that the word intelligence also has an opposite. It is called non-intelligence. So they are opposites. You can falsify that. Intelligence is the explanation.
What non-intelligent thing? Okay,
non-intelligence.
Mr. ID, do you think everything was created by intelligence,
Yes.
like literally everything?
Wait,
Do you think? Mr. ID, looking at the universe around us,
so,
do you think that it was all created by intelligent design?
no.
You think there's things that was not created by intelligent design?
When you say created, no. The origin of everything is yes, but for example, the way of the sea.
No. That's not what, hold on, Mr. ID. That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking. Looking at the universe around us, was every single thing created by an intelligence?
That's right. The question is very broad. If you are going to ask the whole universe,
it absolutely is broad, but it's also very specific. Mr. ID, one more time, okay, please. Listen to my question. Answer it honestly.
Okay.
I'm honestly trying to interlock with you here. Is there everything in the universe, every single thing, even down to the most minuscule atom, was created by an intelligent design, right? An intelligent designer, yes?
What the existence, yes. The existence, yes.
Existence. That includes everything in existence. Yes. Every atom, every configuration of atoms, it was all created by an intelligent designer. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you just tried to say that, well, we have intelligence everywhere, which means that you should be able to point to something that's not intelligent to make that comparison, right?
Yes, there is. There are especially in the earth, for example, the earthquake, for example, the waves of the sea, the landslide. The wind.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to bring it back to my line of questioning now.
You see?
Go ahead.
All right.
Okay. So you must be specific.
Mr. ID. Yeah, we must be specific. You've gotten as much specificity, and I'm already at I'm getting close to my wit's end here. We're gonna get back to what you actually know about evolution as the person who actually debunked it. So you wanted to go with, what was your answer for a modern example? Oh, is the fusion of the second chromosome. So what that gets at to is basically that there is genetic evidence. Mr. ID, are you aware that evolutionists, as you would call them, accept genetic evidence for evolution?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Please, no. Do not take it a new direction. We're going to go down my thing. Could you please explain to me what an endogenous retrovirus is?
I know that. The endogenous ARV. The ARV are the topic. The ARV, the ARVs are those viruses that are been found in the bonobos, orangutan animals, and the mammals like humans. And they said they are the remnants of the virus before, and therefore it came from a common descendant.
Right. So to put it more succinctly, ERV refers to these retroviruses that are passed down generation to generation and are maintained in the DNA. What is the explanation for why there is ERV amongst both humans and gorillas, and that they are the same ones, and that points to we and gorillas have a common ancestor, because that is the way that would be necessary? What is the explanation for that if evolution isn't true?
If evolution is true, your explanation is correct. But if evolution is not true, the explanation is very simple. Remember that the way bonobo, orangutan, and the human being, we have almost the same identical DNA.
No.
You were affected,
Mr. ID, Mr. ID. This is not a structural part of the DNA. This is not a part of the DNA that is important to being a primate. If you want to say we have common DNA because we have a common creator, we are talking about something that comes in and is added to the DNA that at one point didn't exist in the DNA. That's what these retroviruses do. And for us to have them, for us to have the same retrovirus with the same makeup, and in fact we have several, for you and I to have the same retrovirus in this way, It would mean you and I have to have a common ancestor. And that is what the, not just genetic evidence, but the physical medical evidence would be if we were tracing things back. You and I would have to have a common ancestor for you and I to have the same retrovirus. And that continues on species to species. So gorillas have it. It's not necessary. If we removed it, we wouldn't then now not be Homo sapiens, and they wouldn't now not be gorillas. These are not structural parts. These aren't the Legos that God, these are additions. Common ancestry is the way two humans would have it between themselves and every other species. So what is the explanation for them being there according to intelligent design?
Jimmy, we were already affected by coronavirus, COVID-19. We know
Are
that
you going
COVID-19
to answer?
also affected.
Repeat my, Mr. ID. Mr. ID. Nope, I'm not. Nope. Please repeat my question back to me. What question did I just ask you?
You're asking me what if the retrovirus, if the found retrovirus in both in animal and animals like bonobo and orangutan, a human being are a part of evolution or not, right? So I'm asking you if they are not.
That is not my question. And in Mr. ID, you may try again on a day where you are going to actually pay attention and listen. Next time, bring a notebook, write down the questions so you can answer only them, but I'm already tired of you. 0 point to continuing that call. I already know that Aron has wrecked this person time and time again, and that they're mostly interested in promoting their awful book that they think is a debunk of Aron's book, and basically just spends the entire book complaining about Aron.
ERVs was what I had in mind when I was asking him about the modern medical or modern scientific evidence for evolution. He brought up human chromosome 2, which is just as good because it's a mutation that shows that we have this similarity with the apes. We can see exactly where these two chromosomes were fused, the centromeres and telomeres, and we can see them go together, and we can actually analyze these things. Same thing with the ERVs. We have like close to 200 common insertions with the other great apes, like something that statistically is virtually impossible. But of course, Mr. ID can just wave his wand and say, oh, hey, God magic explains it. God magic can literally explain anything. It's really just a magical answer. That's I'm surprised you knew he had a book. You must have some notes on him that I didn't have, because I was like, oh wow, he's chilling a book. Okay.
Called the earlier show too.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. Oh, today. Okay. I should have been watching.
And
busy cleaning my
often
office.
Tries to pop in the live chat and claim that Aron is afraid of him.
Yeah.
Yep. Hang on. Well, now we need to fill the dead air. So Jimmy Stone has a podcast. Check it out everywhere podcasts happen. Marjorie in New York, you're on the line with Jimmy and Eric with an alleged correction about Christianity and Nazi Germany.
Yes. Hi. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Sure do.
Okay. Awesome. I'm usually just listen in the bushes. I am a theist, and I was listening to the caller before Mr. ID, and oftentimes people will say that the Nazis were heavily into Christianity. And I wanted to read just one lyric, because I can't sing, from the official Hitler Youth Anthem, which I believe would correct that ideology. Is that okay?
Would correct what ideology?
That the Nazis, Hitler, and that group were heavily into Christianity.
Okay, so what you will, so let me let you know what you're up against. You believe that with a single lyric of a song by the Hitler Youth, you will have debunked the fact that about 70% of Germany during World War II were Protestant, and the remaining 30% were Catholic, that it was almost an entirely Christian by some denomination country, and that they also invoked that Christianity in their propaganda, and again, on their very belts, you believe a single lyric will disabuse us of the notion from a Hitler Youth song that the Germans were mostly Christian.
Well, the Hitler Youth, not the whole nation, right?
We're talking about the Nazis. The Hitler Youth themselves aren't the Nazis, despite being Nazistic. We're talking about the Nazis, the people who performed the Holocaust. So which line from it are you wanting to provide? And once we're done with this, I'm then going to want to bear down on why do Christians need to lie about the Christianity in Germany instead of just saying those were bad Christians, those weren't Christ-like, those weren't, but yes, they thought they were doing it in the name of, I don't get it, but go ahead. What is the line you believe will fix this?
Can I answer that first point?
No. You first answer
you want me to read the line?
Give the lyric first.
Okay. We are the happy Hitler Youth. We have no need for Christian virtue. For Adolf Hitler is our intercessor and our redeemer. No priest, no evil one can keep us from feeling like Hitler's children. Not Christ do we follow, but Horst Weisel. Away with incense and holy water pots. So I could read the entire song, but I, for time's sake, I guess. But
what's the title of that song?
It says Hitler Youth Annual Meeting 1934, official song of the Hitler Youth.
Okay.
So just some context. Hey,
Marjorie.
Can I just finish my thought?
Nope. We're gonna continue on. Would you agree that Donald Trump is head of what is a Christian nationalist movement? That many of the people who follow Donald Trump are Christian nationalists?
I do not believe Trump is a Christian. I do
Doesn't
believe
matter.
that he is the head. No. I'm finishing.
No. You will go where I tell you, Marjorie. You'll answer the question I actually ask. Is he the head of a Christian nationalist political movement?
I was agreeing. Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
I just wanted to clarify. I don't believe he's a Christian.
If there are believers of him who are Christian, who say he is what matters more over everything else, that they would follow him and that they see him as a religious figure or a prophet, and they would prefer him to their Christian sect, that they would prefer him. Because, by the way, nowhere in that song do they actually disavow Jesus Christ. Not Christ, but Christianity. And we're talking about an interpretation of German to English, right? And we're talking about a localized group and not the Nazis at large, and still are not accounting for the 70% Protestant, 30% Catholic German people. But you believe that a Hitler Youth meeting, a single lyric, debunks that it was a Christian nationalist movement despite all of the other evidence.
Yes. I do
That's
not think
crazy,
the
Marjorie.
official Nazis would allow
That's not the officially Nazis. The Hitler Youth are basically the QAnon. They are the extremists, the people who would die for Hitler.
Once again, I do not think they would allow these children, which is what he wanted to do.
Of course he would have. Of course Hitler would have. Of course Hitler would allow the children to give him. The Nazis did, or rather the Nazi organization, the people within are a bit different. Hitler did not, even if he was still Christian, clearly did not like organized religion, clearly did not like structural Christianity. And they were at odds with those things. That does not make the movement less Christian at all. However, it makes it less organized Christianity to some degree. And the fact that these children are, in German, pledging fealty to him over Christianity as an organization, not only is it not surprising, not only does it not debunk, you would expect that out of an autocratic, strongman, dictatorial piece of shit.
Okay. May I respond?
No. Okay, now you can. Since we're doing that game. When I go quiet, that is your opportunity to speak. If Eric isn't speaking, that's your opportunity to speak. That's how it works.
Okay, my first time calling in, I'm sorry.
Fine.
So if it's not organized, And it's not, as you said, if it's not organized and it's not, I don't know what the word is.
Institutional is the better word, because there's still plenty of organized Christianity, just in other forms. But the institutions, Hitler was at odds at because he didn't like splitting power with them.
Okay. Then it ceases to be Christianity, doesn't it?
No. If the people there believe in Jesus Christ and believe that they are acting under Jesus Christ's will and that he is marching with them, they are all still Christian.
Is that the way Christianity works? I just have to...
Marjorie, a person is Christian if they identify as such and follow the tenets of Christianity. And as far as I am aware, no identifier is necessary for Christianity besides accepting the divinity and redemption of Jesus Christ. What definition would you like to claim is the definition?
I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree that belief and faith
So were the Hitler Youth the active Nazis or the soldiers in training to be the Nazis?
Well, from watching and reading over the years, because as I tried to say before, all these years, I thought they were Christians too.
Yes, and they were. Were the Hitler Youth the soldiers or the soldiers in training?
Soldiers in training.
They were the children. So the existing Nazi movement, the initial one, the surge in the people who committed the Holocaust, were they mostly of the Nazi youth or were they mostly Nazis? Granted, some of the youth would have graduated, but who were they mostly?
I don't believe they were Christian.
I'm not asking that. Were they the youth or the existing adult population that were Protestant and Catholic? Right. Where did their anti-Semitic views come from?
Some of them did come from the church. Absolutely.
Right. Not some. Institutionally came from the church. Foundationally came from the church. Taught for centuries before, bastardizing Jewish people as both some sort of monster as well as the murderers of Christ. That is where it came from.
Agreed.
Their hatred and their distaste for them is Christian in its nature. So even Marjorie, the hilarious part of it all, the worst joke of it all, is even if by the end of the war they were all atheists, which they weren't, they were still Christians, but if they had all been atheists, it still would have been Christianity that fooled them into anti-Semitism. I do not know why we are having a second round of I'm trying to make the Holocaust work for the Christians. It is a thing that Christianity should look back on and go, holy crap. If ever something like this should ever come up again, we would hope that the majority of people who claim to believe in Christ and would be Christ-like would look at that and they would across the world go, this is horrible. I hate that they're doing this in our name. But instead, the opposite is happening today. You can see today how Christian failures and promoted religious bigotry are supporting today genocides. And I don't understand if you're agreeing and can see that, you're trying to rewrite history and go, but the 1940s Germans, 30s Germans, after all those centuries of deep anti-Semitism, let's not say that that had anything to do with Christianity. Go ahead, Marjorie.
Thank you. I've looked at, I told you, I believe that they were Christians as well and hung my head in shame. Absolutely.
Good.
When I did some research, they were pagan. So they celebrated pagan identities of their forebears.
Some individuals did. The Nazi movement that rose to power and conquered Europe were not a pagan movement. You're sitting there and you are trying to find, this is confirmation bias and special pleading. You're literally going and you're trying to find little groups to take it away from the Christians. Marjorie, which pagan ideology did they invoke to kill the Jews? Which pagan ideology specifically hates the Jews? The funny thing is you can actually find modern day pagan atheists who are Nazis. Or not pagan atheists, pagan Nazis.
Right.
But that has developed since then. There was some paganism amongst some people within Germany, because that's everywhere. And the Christian attempt to make that the focus, show me any evidence that they were primarily, show me evidence it was more than 5% of the population of Germany was pagan.
I don't know the numbers. I'll be honest. I don't know the numbers offhand. It's just that, and I'm certainly, please understand, I'm certainly not trying to have anyone escape responsibility for what happened.
Yes, you are. You're literally trying to whitewash in the favor of your confirmation bias.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'm really not. I promise you. Even the anti-Semitism that occurs today by people who claim Christ saddens me and hurts me and wounds me. And I live in New York City. I expect in the coming days we'll be on high alert. So no, I promise you I'm not trying to do that. I was just simply trying to point out that, and I'll even concede, even if it was smaller amounts of the population, that these types of songs would not have been allowed.
Yes, they would. Right now, Donald Trump could get away with it, especially if he went more sect specific. Back then, the understanding of what they meant wasn't a disavowing of Jesus Christ or trying to push away Jesus, but it was trying to put Hitler on the pedestal well after they already had control of the Christians.
I agree.
Great. So you agree then that the Nazis performed their Nazism on the basis of that Christianity, because that is the conclusion of what I just said.
From the historical perspective, yes. I wasn't going that route.
I just looked it up. At no point during the 30s or the 40s, if you want to leak in, did paganism exceed 1% of the population.
Okay. I won't fight you. I don't know the numbers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. But you're sitting here saying that when you looked it up and did the research, you didn't find out the numbers. You just saw keywords and were relieved to find out that when you went with a bias, hoping to let Hitler off the, or Nazis, Christians off the hook for Nazism, because you're a Christian, you managed to do so.
There's no relief. I'm not trying to whitewash, and there's no relief.
Then why are you doing it right now?
I just wanted to point out.
Okay.
The song and my knowledge of the occultism that occurred amongst the Nazis, whether it was 1%, 2%, I didn't know you were going to go there.
Less than 1%. Yes, Marjorie, I was going to look up the data on the claim that you actually made. That is where I was going to go. You called in saying you had a correction about the Christianity, and at no point did I say, never did anyone else experience any other type of religious motivation from any other source. But the absolute majority, nearly adding up to 100% of Germans at the time, the religious majority of them, the Nazi movement, was Christian.
Claimed Christianity? Okay.
No. Was Christian. Don't try to no true Scotsman your way out of this, Marjorie. I dare say you are showing off your cognitive biases here that you just said didn't motivate you to try and get Christianity separated from the Holocaust.
I'm not.
Yes, absolutely you are.
Not. Okay, so as a Christian, if I go out and violate all the principles of Christ, hurting people viciously, unnecessarily, without provocation, this, that, and the other. Speaking of myself and the community that, I've learned and grown to love, we're reprobate.
Okay. What's the question? If you go out there and do it, are you still a Christian? Is that what you said?
what I said was, I've left Christianity.
No.
If I'm not espousing the virtues.
The virtues of Christianity are contained where?
For me, in the Bible.
Right. And does the Old Testament contain genocides in it, justified on religious differences?
Yes.
Correct. So any individual, any Christian who does those terrible acts that you're saying, can they find biblical justification for doing so? Just say yes. Just tell the truth.
You just want a yes or a no, or can I answer?
You can start by saying yes or no. I will let you answer longer, but the answer is clearly yes, that right now, Marjorie, you have an interpretation of the Bible that is subjective. It is the one that you feel is true because it makes you feel the best. Theirs was similarly subjective. If the two of you would actually come up with a model by which you can eliminate which of the two of you is correct, or if both of you are wrong, then you'd have something. Marjorie, what would that model look like? They have a way of using the Bible to justify their beliefs. You have a way of justifying your beliefs with the Bible. How do we figure out which one of you is using the correct model, or if you're both wrong?
The one that follows the text.
They both follow the text because you both rely on interpretation. The text includes, Marjorie, arguably progressive Christians follow the text less. The people who I prefer as Christians are right. So Marjorie, you're saying progressive Christians, as in the modern world of Christians who don't kill queer people, who don't make sins governmental laws, they don't make it illegal to sin, who don't force their religion down everybody's throat, who don't live in extremist ways, those people that are the preferable types of Christians, and one can actually live amongst, they don't go commit crusades, those people live the text less and rely on interpretation and changing it more. And you said the one who's right is the one who lives by the text more. Guess what? That means the Westboro Baptist Church is more accurate than most Christians because they live by the text. It's literally called fundamentalism, where you live by the words, not what the words, but not the spirit of the words, but the literal words.
But the letter of the word. So where in the Bible does it say hang up a sign that says God hates facts? Because that's not there.
Excuse me, Marjorie, that is a fallacy. It does describe gay people, queer people, such as myself, as abominations who are worthy of death. It does describe God as hateful of sin. Whether or not, Marjorie, no shit. I know why I know why it doesn't apply. But wait a second, Marjorie. Marjorie, stop it. Stop it, Marjorie. Marjorie, where does it say to call into a call-in show? And yet you felt compelled to do so because the things that you call in to defend are not always by a direct rule that it says in there. That is its own type of fallacy. To say because it doesn't say those specific words, it doesn't have that intention for you. You live every day by what you think the words want you to do as an action. The Westboro Baptist Church think the words about God hating queers, or rather God hating sin, and that sin being particularly an abomination. And to them, they feel it's also justified in there that the abomination is greater than any other abomination, any other sin. That they believe God wants them to communicate that to the masses. And they don't even think it's to try and deconvert them. When a queer person says, okay, what can I do then if God hates me? They say nothing. You are this way because he hates you. And they have verses to cite for that. Just like you, Marjorie. Marjorie, exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting to, Marjorie. Just like you. So hang on. Nope. Let me get back to my question that you didn't answer. Just like you, Marjorie, they read the book, they interpret the book, and think this is the way the God of this book wants me to behave. And you said that doesn't make them correct. So now back to my question. Yes. How do we determine which one of the two of you is correct or if you are both wrong?
My answer remains.
Your answer you already agreed was wrong before. You said that whoever lives by the text, and then you agreed that fundamentalists live by the text more than progressive.
What God told Hebrews in the desert.
What did Jesus say about the law? What did Jesus say about that Hebrew law?
He's the fulfillment of it.
And then what did he say? After he said he fulfilled it,
love your neighbor as yourself.
Nope. After he said he fulfilled it, he said, I fulfilled it, but I am not changing it, not even a tittle.
Right.
Right. So that old law, he actually says you still live by the old law, but I'm here fulfilling.
I can eat pork because he's the fulfillment of it.
No, Marjorie, no, incorrect. You have accepted because he said not a tittle. You actually shouldn't be eating pork. I'm not a Christian. No. I eat pork. Actually, I don't, but I would eat pork on the basis of the fact that I'm not a Christian. Marjorie, that's what he said. He said he's not changing the law, Marjorie. He said it.
He's the fulfillment of it.
Right.
When
he said
fulfill a bill, there's nothing else to pay.
Incorrect. Then why did he say, but I'm not changing it, not even a tittle?
He's the fulfillment of it.
Why did he say he's not changing it, not even a tittle? Why can't you tell the truth?
I am
Marjorie.
No, you aren't.
Hey, Marjorie, what does the Bible say? What does the New Testament say about homosexuality?
That when people, you mean Romans 1?
Mm-hmm. What does that say?
That when people knew God, they honored him not as God. And God gave them over to a reprobate mind. And
so you seem to be familiar with the scripture, but what does Romans
and crocodiles and things like that?
Marjorie,
and
what does Romans 1?
The natural use of a woman. Huh?
All right, Marjorie, I'm going to jog your memory here. So hold on here. Direct quote. Okay. God gave them up to the passions of dishonor. Their females exchanged natural use for which is contrary to nature. Males with males, inflamed by their lust for one another, committing what is shameful, receiving in themselves, here's the key part, the recompense, which is fitting for their error. Do you think this supports or contradicts or undoes anything in the Old Testament?
Do I think it contradicts anything?
Because the New Testament says that homosexuals should be stoned to death. And then the New Testament comes along and calls it shameful, and that they're receiving themselves in recompense for which is fitting their error. Do you think that supports the Old Testament?
No.
Or does it do something else?
I'll tell you why. The beginning of that chapter in Romans 1
what does the recompense, not Marjorie, no, hold on. What does the recompense for which is fitting to their error mean? This is God threatening them, saying you're going to get what you deserve because you did these things.
The beginning of that same chapter, we can't.
You can answer his fucking question.
You can answer my question.
Good Lord.
So when the Westboro Baptist Church is holding up their God hates fag sign,
God, and set up idols.
Okay, so can a person practice homosexuality and not reject God?
Can a person? One more time.
Can a person practice homosexuality and still accept God and be within God's good graces?
Yes.
Why does that go directly against Romans 1:26 and 27 here? Because it explicitly says
you can finish this with any point you want. You
it explicitly here. Sure, it explicitly here says the shameful things that they do.
Embraced idols and rejected him.
So why even mention any of that other stuff though?
That's the key word.
So Major,
this is what
Marjorie, let's go ahead and just roll with that. Okay, they were practicing idolatry. What does the homosexuality part of it have anything to do with it? Why is it even mentioned?
It's a good question.
That is.
But it's not the only.
Let's focus on the good question here. Let's focus on the good question here instead of focusing on something else. Marjorie, this stuff was mentioned for a reason. They're linking these supposed unclean, idolatrous, reprehensible acts as described in the New Testament. They're lumping it all together, and they're saying these people deserve destruction. They deserve the punishment God's about to give them. And they included homosexuality in that for a reason.
I understand that. You have
okay,
a
so
Bible
when the Westboro Baptist Church holds up their signs, Marjorie, when the Westboro Baptist Church holds up their signs,
Westboro the ideal of Christianity, that's the example.
Marjorie, the point is when. All right, Marjorie, I gotta meet you here for a second. Marjorie, I'm so sorry. You got to listen to me for a moment here. When we say that the Westboro Baptist Church is more closely following the Bible than other progressive Christian groups, this is what we mean, and this is the evidence that supports it. The Bible nowhere speaks of homosexuality in any type of good light. In the Old Testament, it's punishable by murder, by execution. And in the New Testament, it just supports that. It just simply says, God's going to give them what they deserve. If God's going to give homosexuals what they deserve, then the God hates fag sign that the Westboro Baptist Church holds up is accurate to the Bible.
It is not.
Right?
It is not. I am not.
Give me one place in the Bible anywhere.
Marjorie, am not licensed to behave that way. To go outside your house and hold up a sign that you're going to die, let your kids
I'm not talking about the actual holding of the sign.
No.
I'm not talking about the actual holding of the sign. I'm talking about what the sign says. Marjorie, does God hate homosexuals?
No.
So why did he order them executed in the Old Testament?
I don't know.
So this is what we were talking about earlier, Marjorie. It's fine you don't know.
We're having a conversation.
We have called
Marjorie. All right.
Could you look up Proverbs 6:16 for me, please? I can't.
So Marjorie,
see you guys, I'm on
no worries, Marjorie. I'm not accusing you of lying. Marjorie, I'm not accusing you of lying. I do think you're interacting with us honestly. But Marjorie, the fact that you just said I don't know, you're holding on one position. God does not hate homosexuals. But then in the other hand, you have clear evidence that the Bible says that they should be executed. And in the New Testament, they say that God's going to give them what they deserve. So you have two contradictory.
16,
no, you need to listen to me first, Marjorie, and then we're going to end the call because we're got to move on. But you're holding two opposing positions, contradictory positions in your mind. And you have to figure out how to resolve this. Because you have clear evidence. Okay, if you are going to ignore...
Stop interrupting, Marjorie.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Marjorie, you said yourself that you don't know why God ordered the execution of homosexuals in the Old Testament. And by extension, I got a feeling you don't know why God's going to give them what they deserve as described in Romans. But then on the other hand, you don't think that God hates them.
Romans is an idolatry issue.
It's a multi-issue in Romans.
It is a
homosexuality is part of it. But homosexuality is part of it. If homosexuality had nothing to do with this judgment that God was going to pass on them, it would not be mentioned. But it's there and it's mentioned.
Which version of the Bible do you read, Marjorie?
Typically King James Version and English, ESV, English Standard.
New King James or the original?
The original.
Great. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle shall in any wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. You are completely wrong about what your assertion was before. Goodbye.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Heaven and earth haven't passed away. Not even close. This is going to be fun. I've been waiting. I knew this was going to happen. Jackie in Mississippi. Jackie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good, but I'm a little frustrated. Jackie, when we last talked, not on live, but when I screened the call, what did I tell you at that time?
Not when we last talked, but when we what?
Not when we last talked on air, but when we talked in the screening room, a call screener. What did I tell you?
Nothing that comes to.
How many times did I say you could call each week?
I forgot it.
Well, that's too bad, Jackie, because clearly you love calling into the show, and because you ignored it, and by the way, you didn't forget, because I remember that you then tried to call a few days later and challenge it. You were told that you may call once a week, that we are not going to let you on every show as you were wont to do. Do you remember this?
Now it's starting to come up. So
now it's starting to come up, even though you wanted to challenge it, and I screened you directly in the room, and you apparently have all sorts of room in your head to remember all types of Jordan Peterson quotes and philosophy, right, Jackie? But you didn't have it in your head when you talk to the person whose network you keep trying to call and be on as many shows as possible, that you were told you get one show a week. Did that happen, Jackie?
I don't have infinite cognitive capacity, so.
Oh, got you. You ran out of it, so you dismissed that. Well, Jackie, that's too bad because you are now down to 0 a week. You are banned from ever calling the show again. Goodbye, Jackie. Jackie will no longer be allowed on this network because I don't play those stupid fucking games, and it was already an annoyance in the first place. We do not create this platform so one person who wants to try and call in every show can, I don't even know what Jackie was getting out of it because it made him look real dumb a lot. But it's basically, hey, here's my today pet philosophy theory, and wanting to basically be, we call it co-host syndrome behind, wanting to have this sort of like, oh, look, a platform that's gathered thousands of people to watch for me seems to have been it. Jackie was told by me, you now get one show a week. Where they answer, had we hit this week and earlier today, they hadn't answered, I would have said, okay, fine. I also told Jackie that when he calls, it may be the case that the hosts do not take the call, in which case he can call again on a different show, but he gets one answered call a week and to use it wisely. But because he doesn't have infinite cognitive ability, the show that's very important for him to call in as often as possible, he was unable to remember when that was restricted. And therefore now we will just have to overcorrect by never allowing Jackie on the show ever again. Bye. Honestly, I've been waiting for, I knew Jackie would give a reason. The absolute pedantic sophist bullshit Jackie brings. I was tired of being on my network so often. So, but I wasn't going to ban Jackie for nothing. I gave Jackie the boundary and Jackie went, I don't have a memory that cares about boundaries. I hope you grow up to be a more respectful man. Oh, the end of an era. Hey, did you know that Jimmy Snow has a podcast? Because if you didn't, I wrote it on a whiteboard.
It's even spelled correctly. Yes.
Is that surprising? Do I often misspell? I'm not aware if I do. By the way, I sent you a message on WhatsApp. Okay. All right, let's talk to...
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. All right, I'm going to probably cap calls at the current because I don't necessarily want to do this all night. I don't necessarily want to do it much longer. But John in the UK, my goodness, you are on the line with Jimmy and Eric. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm quite good. You sound a bit more Australian. Do you want to work on the accent you're choosing for this call?
I'm not choosing an accent. I am English.
This is the real one. All right, fair enough. Go on, John. Give it to me. I'm waiting. Oh, wrong.
Well, I've been watching your show for many years, and I think it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you base a great deal on factual evidence.
Yes.
Is it not fair to say that there is factual evidence with the male and female body designed for heterosexuality rather than homosexuality?
You are correct. It is not fair to say that anything was designed for anything. Now, if you want to say that the continuation of our species clearly shows a species which propagates a high proportion of the population, a high percentage of the population will tend to have a drive toward heterosexual, not just sex, but reproduction, that you definitely could say. But I wouldn't be so careless with my words as you had been so far, John.
But could you therefore not say that if people do not choose their sexual orientation, they do choose how they act upon it and choose whether or not to act upon it?
Sure.
And that there are many who choose not to act upon it.
Correct.
And do you believe those people to be better, worse, or equal to those who do not choose to act upon it?
It will depend entirely, because I do not give a shit if anybody with higher cognitive ability decides they do or don't want children. That is totally up to them and none of my gosh dang business, unless they are in some way doing so in a way so irresponsible it's actually harming society. So that would actually be a case against some people having heterosexual sex, not having it. But otherwise, as far as the sexual act goes, if your proclivity excludes the consent of another being, then I would say I think it is very good of you to deny that sexuality. If it does not exclude the consent of another individual, as in everything is always consensual, then I would say in that scenario, all sexual acts are equal.
But are they equal if the people live in a country where certain acts are illegal?
The acts themselves would still be equal from a moral sense to me. If they are illegal, I would suggest that a person maybe consider pragmatically whether or not they want to break those laws, but I do not consider something moral simply because a government has said it is legal or illegal.
I didn't use the word morality. I was simply saying that in practical terms, it might be better for certain people to choose not to act upon their feelings.
Yes, for their safety, that may be the case.
It's just that I've worked in countries where that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
And those people usually make a conscious choice.
Yep, because but sexual compulsion is very strong for a lot of people, and for some people, the risk and reward of the bonding with another human, feeling sexually and emotionally fulfilled is worth that risk, or they mistake whether it's worth that risk because when we are sexually aroused, certain cognitive faculties actually decrease, which is also probably a part of why the species propagated so much and is an unfortunate thing that evolution has favored.
Are you someone who believes that there is a gene with regard to homosexuality?
I believe that whether a person is queer or not is likely due to multiple factors, and that there are individuals who are queer, that there is a genetic presence that looks like it is relevant to their queerness, and there are other queer individuals who do not have that. In fact, I think it is more likely the case that most people are some level of bisexual. However, they may have a high intensity of preference one way or the other. I actually don't buy that everybody is just completely straight. I am myself a bisexual man who most often finds myself with at least feminine individuals, which results usually in that feminine person being a woman. So I do not think that there is a distinctive gene. I think that human psychology is much more complex than that. I know it's much more complex than that, and that multiple things could affect that, and that there is probably some balance of nature versus nurture, and it will be different for every individual.
Why do you think, therefore, that so many cultures condemn homosexuality?
Religious bigotry and the fact, I can answer very easily. Most societies are patriarchal, and patriarchal people who get into power in the past have been the strongest, which doesn't necessarily mean that they are the smartest. In fact, often quite the inverse. It means that their body may have supported certain resources over another. I think that people who are in those patriarchal societies tend to have it reinforced into them that homosexuality is disgusting and a threat to their own sexuality and perception of masculinity to even abide it or act like it doesn't. And I think that it is a cultural export that is reinforced by a lot of religions. Fact of the matter is that most of the world are members of the Abrahamic religion, which have a historical past going well in hundreds of years into the BC of being homophobic, and breaking free of that homophobic ideology has been extremely difficult.
But if you look at the Chinese culture, where religion really doesn't exist at all, they still have considerable homophobia.
Interesting how you totally ignored my first part of that, because you literally only went to the part where I included that it has been reinforced by the religious issue. And so Chinese homophobia, they still exist in homophobic cultures, and China still a mostly patriarchal society. We actually see in places that are less patriarchal, that sentiment, we can see that it is a learned behavior because children are being raised without homophobia, and it doesn't require counter programming. If you just don't teach them to be homophobic, they tend not to be.
But why would patriarchs be homophobic?
Because
if your original point was that most people are bisexual anyway.
Because they reject that side of them and they associate masculinity with heterosexuality. And as I mentioned, bisexuality doesn't mean 50-50, and that they may have a heavy preference in lean, and that these more testosterone-laden, stronger males have often been the people in power in the past, not necessarily the best thinkers or the most empathetic people, because might made right in a lot of these societies, especially modern day societies that we pretend are democracies at times, and that deep influence of not just masculinity, but toxic masculinity, they find it emasculating for queer people to exist. If you are quite done with the line of why queer though, shouldn't it be it seems like your original assertion was that biology points to a necessity for heterosexuals. And I want to know what you think. Therefore, what? If biology prefers there to be more heterosexuals in a population, if that is, and I think you mean evolution, that we as a species have evolved to be at least mostly capable of heterosexual sex, not necessarily heterosexuality itself. Therefore, what?
Therefore, why I still cannot understand. Why are you linking necessarily heterosexuality and masculinity?
Because uber masculine, toxic masculine, and masculine people in power find the existence of queer people emasculating.
And why is that?
You'd have to ask them. I'm not a toxic man. You'd have to ask them.
But I fail to see why.
John, are you homophobic? Do you find, if you see two gay men kissing, do you withdraw? Do you find that repulsive?
No.
Good. You know that many men do, right?
Yes.
So what do you think the difference is between you and them?
I think it's the same reaction that many people would have at the thought of their parents having a sexual relationship.
Why? No, we're talking about learned behavior. How come homosexuals don't describe the same problem with seeing reflections of heterosexuality, such as a man and a woman kissing, in popular media, since it's all over the place, and also public displays of affection are all over the place and wildly embraced for heterosexuals, but not homosexuals? Why is it that people who feel they are 100% homosexual, whether that's true or not, but as gay, as straight men believe they are straight, they don't en masse suffer the same problem with that which they are exposed to constantly?
I think that's just a simple matter of percentages.
It's a simple matter of, it's a simple matter of, it is culturally reinforced that gay, ooh, bad, and straight, normal. That's the normal stuff. That is culturally reinforced. John, you're a theist. Do you believe queer people should be allowed to be queer with each other?
Yes.
Why do you give a shit then?
I think there's a difference between being queer and having sex.
Why? Okay, do you believe I should be allowed to have sex with a queer man?
If that's your choice, yes.
Great. Do you believe that if I do that, I will go to hell for doing so?
Probably, yes.
Great. What is your evidence that hell exists?
I think in some ways hell exists during life, not necessarily after death.
John,
you understand the question, right?
Yes,
why do you think a supernatural hell exists?
Don't take over right as I'm getting to my climax. I'll give it back to you, I promise.
That's what I do.
This is where you did it last time too, and I was like, I was about to get there. Where is your evidence that the hell you believe I will go to for having homosexual sex exists?
I'm saying that any sex anyone has is a choice. No one can choose the feelings they have, but they can choose what they do about it. A heterosexual man can choose not to.
Great. John, I do not need a recap. Unlike our last caller, I'm capable of remembering things I've just been told. So, John, where is your evidence that if I have sex, I choose to have sex with a man, that will result in me going to hell?
Because if someone is a theist, that they believe that there are consequences to actions.
I'm not a theist, and I believe there are consequences to actions. So now I'll restate the question with your new wording, because you are so pedantically trying to avoid what you are eventually going to get to, which is that you are going to admit very soon that your belief I'm going to hell is not evidence-based and is faith-based, and then you're going to end up admitting that you cannot prove that your faith is better than anyone else's faith, or that anyone else should take anything based on faith. But I'm trying to step you there one at a time, and you're trying to avoid it, even though you and I both know that that is what is coming. So now, reworded the way you need it, my good fellow, where is your evidence that the consequence of me having sex with a man will be that I will go to hell?
No one knows that will definitely happen.
So where is your evidence that it will happen or might happen?
It might happen because that's a conscious choice you choose to make.
Nope. Might happen would include so first of all, to say something could happen would suggest that you've actually demonstrated possibility, that it's even possible for that. I have yet to see any evidence that hell existing is even possible, let alone true. So once again, I know now I've told you the playbook, and now you just don't want to get there. Can you prove that the hell that you are saying I will go to as a consequence of my action exists, or that the threat of it existing is so substantial that I should be a part of your religion? And then once you have established that your religion will have the correct guidelines for avoiding this hell versus any other religion's hell. You may pick any of those three questions to answer.
I do not believe that someone has to abide by certain religious rules, but they have to be willing to accept that there might be a possibility afterlife of consequences of those choices.
Great. Great. I'm so glad you said that, even though it's still not an answer to my question. Can you prove that an afterlife is possible?
No.
So why do I have to accept something you can't prove is even possible?
I don't believe you have to accept it.
Yes, you did. You said you have to accept that it is possible that the consequences of your actions on earth will happen in the afterlife. That is what you just stated. You said, I have to accept that, which requires me to do a fallacy called begging the question, which is accepting that in the first place, heaven actually could exist, or hell might be possible. And no such evidence has been shown to me that either of those could exist or be possible. That is not to say that I have had evidence that they are impossible or couldn't exist. I am agnostic to the propositions because no evidence in either direction, which is what often happens with unfalsifiable beliefs, has been shown. So I do not, in fact, have to accept that could be the case, because coulds have never been demonstrated.
But there is the possibility that it could be, and you make a choice to take that risk.
Incorrect. You have not demonstrated that there is a possibility that it could be. Possibility is also a claim. Separate from the claim of is possible is also a claim. There are many things that are impossible. There are many things that are possible. The fact that nothing has been proven to be impossible does not make it automatically then possible. You can say, I have accepted that it, on the basis of it not being proven impossible, I've decided to treat it as pragmatically possible, despite the fact that no such thing has been shown to be beneficial. And I would say, yeah, no shit, John, that's what religious people do in general. And then they pretend it's as good as facts. But you cannot say that it is possible unless you can demonstrate that it is possible.
But you cannot prove that hell does not exist.
Correct. And you cannot prove that it does, or that it's possible that it exists. So,
you have
John,
to choose whether to take the risk.
Nope.
John, when you have something that you can't show to exist and you can't show to not exist, you ignore it. The same way you do with unicorns and everything else that we don't have evidence for or against. So by your own admission, John, earlier, by your own admission, you have, John, by your own admission earlier, you don't have any good reason. John, by your own admission earlier, John, by your own admission earlier, you don't have anything you can demonstrate to us or show us or even speak to us about when it comes to the afterlife. You have nothing to show us. So we are perfectly justified in ignoring it. And it also tells us the fact that you still believe in it, you aren't believing in it for rational or logical reasons. You have some type of emotional component there, whether it be fear or a vindictive attitude to see people suffer that you don't like. We don't know and we don't care. We only care what you can show us and you can demonstrate to us. So we'll ask you again, is there anything you can present to us?
No, I'll change the question.
I'm meeting you.
I don't want to do the same question. Now I want to do,
right.
John, you said you have to choose whether to take the risk. Can you prove there's a risk?
No, I can't.
Correct. So I don't have to choose whether to take the risk because there is no risk proven to be necessary to choose between. So I don't have to. There is.
You have to.
Yes, you did. You literally did. You said you have to decide whether or not to take the risk, and you can't prove there is a risk. Why? How many unproven risks do I have to decide to take? There, by your logic, I also have to decide whether or not to take the risk that putting on a black t-shirt will anger a God I've never heard of, and as a result, he's going to stab me in the penis for all of eternity. I can't prove that that risk exists, but because I articulated it, now I guess it does because I said it out loud. And John, you haven't proved that the penis stabber, he ain't a-coming. John, are you going to wear a black shirt ever again? Why are you taking the risk of the black-shirted penis stabber?
If that is the case, why is it so many people...
Oh, no, John, answer my question. Why are you taking the risk of the black-shirted penis stabber?
Everything is a risk in life.
Why are you taking the risk of the black-shirted penis stabber? No, it's not. Everything's not a risk in life. We don't know what isn't a risk. Not everything we know.
Everything in life is...
Great, John. I am as compelled by your God to not fuck whatever man I want, since you haven't proven it's a real risk, as you are compelled by my black-shirted penis stabber. Congratulations, John. You have just articulated for everyone here that you do not have a basis upon which to claim your risk and odds of your belief are better than one I make up off the top of my head. Because your basis was literally, you can't prove that guy doesn't exist. And you haven't proved that, I'm going to name him, Hank the penis stabber, who stabs people who wears black shirts, doesn't exist. So John, now if you would like to present a good reason to believe he exists or the risk of him exists, we would hear that.
Why take that chance? Why take that chance?
Why are you taking what chance? Prove there's a chance, John. We've already done this. You've just changed the word. Can you prove that there is a chance hell exists?
Can you prove there is a chance that hell does not?
Nope. Therefore, we should dismiss it like Hank the goddamn penis stabber. Can you not remember things that happened 15 seconds ago? My God! It is so frustrating, John. It's so frustrating to do this show week after week, month after month, to take a break and come back, and you're just hearing the same look at the trees bullshit, don't have gay sex. Because that's going to make the creator of the universe, who created everything, a massive universe beyond the size of our ability to actually conceive, with a massive amount of time that we can't even really conceive. And that man created the whole universe in mind, and what he really, really cares about is if one penis goes into the mouth and or anus of another penis haver. And if you don't do that, you might get to go to heaven. And if you do that, you're going to go to a place where the guy who loves you, like a parent loves a child, would torture you forever. And you can't prove it, but you want me to keep my boners to myself. Because if I don't, your imagined individual might punish me. But you're not worried. You're not worried about Hank the penis stabber. You don't think about Hank the penis stabber at all. You might now,
because you didn't hear about Hank the penis stabber. And it doesn't bother you that all of these different people have their own religious myths across the world, and that oftentimes controlling sexuality in general is such a heavy part of it, and that it tends to benefit specifically the cis-het males, but not the other people, that they actually get to demand other people's bodies and own other people's bodies. Those aren't the sexual sins you worry about, that the Bible established a method by which girls really are owned by their fathers, and that property can be transferred to another man through something that you want to call marriage. But that sort of sexual slavery is an institution you find so holy that you would deny queer people the ability to do it. Maybe not you specifically, but so many people did. None of these things bother you. You're not thinking about Hank the penis stabber. You got to think about Hank, John. Why take the risk? Your penis is going to get stabbed if you have one. Why take the risk, John? Why take the chance?
Do you agree that heterosexuality has a use in society?
Yes, obviously. No, well, okay, wait. Heterosexual sex has a use in society. Heterosexuality, the orientation, is inconsequential. If the entire world was actually fully 50-50 bisexual, it wouldn't make a significant difference, because the value of having a child and a biological child wouldn't change much. This is why gay couples still tend to want to have children. But heterosexual sex of some type clearly has, Siri couldn't understand. Heterosexual sex has a benefit, sure. And by the way, that benefit is starting to go away, John, because we've actually figured out ways to replace it. If you're talking about typical heterosexual sex, not just an egg and a sperm coming together.
And what use does homosexual sex have to society?
Fun, enjoyment, validation, propagation of the sociality of our species. The same thing, John, are you saying you don't masturbate because it doesn't benefit society at all?
But there is no risk to masturbation.
No. Yes, there is. Of course there's a risk to everything, John. You said it earlier. Of course there are risks. Fucking chafing, UTIs if you didn't clean your hands right. I sure hope you did, but people in the past. And by the way, John, there's no risk to safe homosexual sex, not any more than homosexuals, and we are than heterosexual sex. And people literally have, John, do you believe it's okay for heterosexuals, married presumably because you're a Christian, to have sex with their wives for fun? Or should they stop having sex the moment, let's say a woman is no longer able to have children? Should her and her husband stop having heterosexual sex?
Yes.
Shut the fuck up. You do not believe that, John. You are such a fucking liar. Are you even a Christian? I've never, ever. In fact, the Christian view is that the marriage bed is untainted. You gotta fuck as long as you want for whatever reason you want. The fuck is wrong with you?
I had a grandmother who decided never to have sex again once she'd had the number of children she wanted.
Great, and I love that your grandmother got to decide that. Your grandma was probably a lesbian and didn't want to fuck her husband. Sorry to break it to you, John. She should have grown up in a different world, though it would have meant you don't exist, and how would we have gotten to have this call that included theist debunking bullshit ASMR? But John, who gives a fuck? Do you think, I'm not saying she doesn't get to choose not to have sex. I'm saying, should people stop having sex? Okay, John, here you go. If it becomes safer to have sex via IVF, and that is accessible to everyone, should all people stop having sex?
That's their choice.
No, John. One would have a risk to society, a bigger risk. You said homosexuality, you shouldn't do it because there's a risk. Heterosexual sex has risks. So if it becomes safer to do IVF, should they stop taking the risk of typical sex? Be consistent, John. No, because your whole thing is bullshit. If what you said earlier was consistent, you would have said yes. But you're full of shit, John, and you just don't want gay people to fuck each other.
No, I want gay people to have a choice, to make that choice.
Everyone has a choice, John. We feel very compelled by our choices, and denying yourself heterosexual sex results in what happened in Utah. A bunch of children killing themselves because they felt that the choice they wanted to make was an abomination to God. So yes, I want them to have the choice and to make it consensually, freely, and willingly for the betterment of their physical and mental health, because denying people that fucks them up, John. That's the bigger risk.
But a gay man can choose not to have sex if he wants.
I'm a queer man and I'm not having sex right now, as far as you know. Doesn't mean that there won't be consequences of denying yourself that part of your personality. And it's going to be more important to some people and less important to others.
Well, some people can live a whole life without having
right.
sex.
And some people feel they can't. Look at the incel movement, who is making their perpetual virginity because they can't stand to be not rude to women and treat them respectfully. How those little fucking freaks are making it everybody else's problem.
So you're saying there's no sexual morality at all?
Of course there's sexual morality. I already laid it out at the fucking beginning. Have safe, consensual sex. And I wouldn't even necessarily say the safe thing is morality, as more important to morality if it's only your own safety you're putting at risk. If you're putting other people's safety at risk, that would be a much bigger problem. Have consensual sex. Adults can only have consensual sex with other Homo sapien adults.
But then that can be moral with regard to the region and the age of consent.
No.
No.
The region and the age of consent?
You're conflating morality and law there, John, which you specifically said earlier you weren't going to do.
For the record, John, I think that a person who has sex with a person who clearly is over the age of 18 but has signs of not developing into adulthood would still be in the wrong. If you have sex with somebody who has a developmental disorder, for example, you would still be in the wrong. And generally, as the gap gets larger, it's not really easy to justify people in their 40s, even with people who are 18, 19, 20 years old. My basic rule of thumb is by 25, everybody has developed, it's actually not everybody, but almost everybody. For the most part, everybody's good. And once you're past 25, do whatever you want. If you're a 25-year-old who wants to fuck a 90-year-old and a 90-year-old who can get a 25-year-old to fuck you, go live in peace. But then your brain has formed, and for the most part, almost everybody will have the cognitive things they need to truly consent and not be predated upon when the gaps are that large. And this is more talking about, honestly, more even in-depth relationship. You can actually lax that up a little bit when you're talking about casual sexuality. But as far, only a little, don't fucking freak out on that in the comments. I realize the way people bad faith take things. Adulthood isn't merely the day you turn 18. You shouldn't be predatory toward people. You shouldn't try and, like a religion might, or like the Bible points out that you should get your girls in their formative years and craft them to the man to make sure that that is the identity, is the extension, as the helpmeet of their husband. You shouldn't do that kind of fucking shit.
In the UK, the age of consent is 16.
Yes, it's incorrect. It's wrong. Nobody who is an adult should have sex with a 16-year-old. That's too young.
France,
there are going to be, as far as development goes, the margin of people who will have developed adequate cognitive skills to be able to truly consent to sex with an adult would be too low, even if that number is not 0. And it probably isn't. But I'm not going to sit here and go, well, here's the set of rules I've figured out for which 16-year-olds are fuckable and which ones aren't. It is going to be under a majority, and that's good enough for me. Around 18, you actually start to get close to a majority, which is why 18 is often the number. And 25, when you're my age, at 34, I'm not looking to date anybody who's off of that 25 number really probably ever again for the rest of my life. If I met in a natural setting a 23-year-old and we just super vibed, I don't know. I don't know what we would do, but I assume I would go, I'm 34. What the fuck is wrong with you that you want to be with a 34-year-old? And I've not met a 23-year-old that I can say. But conceivably, 25 is an average, and a 23-year-old could have developed that far. Conceivably is what I'm saying. It is conceivable. But once you hit 25, you're pretty much sunk in that it's going to be most of them. 18, you get close to majority as far as cognitive ability to consent and make those higher decisions. 16 is too low. That's too young of an age of consent. And people who are adults who fuck 16-year-olds are fucking creeps. 18, still a lot of creeps, but technically you could have a case-by-case basis on evaluating that person's cognitive ability.
So basically, John, in a nutshell, our sexual morality is dictated by a single well-thought-out principle. and that sex should only occur between consenting, coherent, capable adults. Now, the one that comes from theism, hold on, John. The one that comes from theism, especially Christianity, is ad hoc. It is situational. It is through the dictates of some divine being that is filtered through a book that has to be interpreted. And in this era, back in the Old Testament, it was okay to have multiple wives. It was okay to have sex with individuals who are not currently mature, not yet mature, having children. You look at Islam, they have the same exact thing. Then all of a sudden in the New Testament, all of a sudden it's different. The standards have changed. We have a single principle on our side, and you have this ad hoc mess on the other. And you're not going to convince us that your system is superior. It's not.
In the UK, until the year 2000, the age of consent for homosexuals was 18, but 16 for heterosexuals.
I like that you're ignoring the part that there used to be no age of consent. But yes, 16 is wrong.
But there was a huge amount of homosexuals pushing for a reduction to 16.
Because they wanted equality, John. At that time, society didn't understand better why those numbers were there, and they wanted equality with the heterosexuals. And that's an understandable movement that probably was staffed by mostly people close to the age of 18. It's almost like you're trying to describe to me, it's almost like you're trying to conflate homosexuality with pedophilia, but you wouldn't do that because you know that that's an age-old bigoted thing. And you want me to envision a 50-year-old homosexual who is saying, it's very important that we in our beautiful island of the kingdom, God save the Queen, make sure that I can fuck me a 16-year-old mummy. I don't think that was the majority of the movement there, John, even if you could find some individuals who were fucking creepy like that. I imagine it was, hey, how come the heterosexuals get this standard and we get a different one? And the reality is it shouldn't be 16. That's fucking weird and creepy as shit.
In France, it's 15.
It's bad in France. In America, there are places where it's 14 because we don't have a federal age of consent. It's fucking weird, and it shouldn't be that, John. Hopefully one day we don't even have to worry about ages. Hopefully there's just some way where like your smartphone will be like, yeah, we just checked the brain scan. Everything necessary to actually consent. Which, by the way, I don't even think consent is some huge... I'm not trying to put these crazy lines on it. I don't think you have to... Evaluating whether or not you want to have sex with a person is not the hardest decision in the world to make. At least not for me. I've been able to decide very easily whether I wanted to fuck someone or not. But having the cognitive ability to do so is important. And hopefully an arbitrary thing like a number where we're relying on the things of just like, oh man, I hope this person isn't underdeveloped and that the maturity is actually not this and that this won't turn later into a traumatic experience. That's some crazy fucking shit, John. What do you think the age of consent should be, John? I guess that's my biggest question, as yours here trying to go like, well, the age of consent in this country is only, when are we going to get down to where it's like fucking 8 years old? Where do you think it should be, John?
Until 1997.
Where do you think it should be, John?
I will answer that after I make this point.
Nope, you won't. You'll answer it. Nope, you will answer my question and not your silly one. What do you think the age of consent should be?
21.
Great, 21. And what should happen to what should the exception rules be around that? Who should be allowed to have sex with somebody under 21?
Nobody.
So a 21-year-old shouldn't be allowed to have sex with a 20-year-old? That's fucking nuts too, John.
That was the case in England until 1995.
I asked what you think, John. That's dumb as fuck. 21-year-olds can fuck 20-year-olds? Are you crazy, John? Usually, I think the standard number is a deviation of 4 years works pretty universally well. 21, you're 17 to 21. That one's a little bit, that's the iffiest. 16 to 20, 19 to 15.
What is that math equation?
14
half
to
your
18.
Age plus 7?
That's supposed to be for one. I think that's supposed to be only for when you are 25 or older, because 25 would be 19. Maybe, yeah. But even that's it's right now there is we need to have some sort of stricter segregation of people under 25 versus over 25. And then when you're right in that little bit of a zone of surrounding 25, things get a little bit trickier. John, I like your age of consent of 21, but I'm not going to stop a 21-year-old from fucking a 20-year-old. That's fucking nuts.
So what about an 18 and a 17-year-old?
I don't give a shit if an 18 and a 17-year-old fuck. I think I had an 18-year-old girlfriend when I was 17, and guess what? We fucked. Fucking crazy. It would be crazy to say within 1 year, that is the equivalent of, because what we're talking about is predatory behavior. Can a person, on the basis of our age difference, our knowledge gap, our wisdom gap, which even that's difficult to establish, because, for example, teenage girls tend to be much smarter than teenage boys, but they're not all predatory, so we have to adjust for all of these things based on age. Usually it's quite the opposite. The high pressure men and the men with the power who want to use that to leverage it to compel somebody. That's the bigger problem we have. But 17 to 18, these are not people who are so intellectually outside of each other's zones that they shouldn't be allowed to fuck each other, John. The fuck's wrong with you?
So what about a 16 and a 15? A 15 and a 13?
Let them fuck each other. As far as, look, here's the thing, John. I wouldn't make anybody under the age of 18, having sex with somebody with an appropriate enough. I wouldn't make it illegal. I would only make it illegal for adults to fuck people from that age group, with an exception for when you are close to that age group. Because if I'm 18 and my girlfriend's birthday is 2 days later, and we're having sex on my 18th birthday, I don't think that would justify locking me up or putting me on a registry because we didn't wait 48 hours to fuck again, John. Let people fuck. And this is the problem, because it started with what is essentially your core homophobia, but also what I find so wrong with religion in general. Hey, religion, stop being so obsessed with my penis, or Hank the penis stabber is going to come and get you. Leave me the fuck alone. God doesn't. If God exists, you really think he cares? He did all of this with the universe. He made all of it, and he's like, don't put that in a bum. Which, by the way, he doesn't even seem to care that I don't favor anal. I'm much more on the, I do some of the other activities, but no special exceptions to me. John, let people fuck each other. Let them fuck each other. Only if there is a reason to worry about that somebody is a victim when they are being fucked. So, like non-consensual adult-child relationships, these sorts of things, should we have actual laws to prevent it? And then we still have social consequences for when a person is shitty, but not necessarily in a way that is illegal. That's all good. But fucking if two adults just want to fuck each other, John, stop threatening them with coal in their stocking or whichever imaginary bullshit you brought to the table. Let them fuck. That's the new Disney song. Let them fuck, let them fuck. I don't care about 1997. They were wrong then.
The age of consent in the Vatican was 12.
Yeah, that's wrong. It shouldn't be 12. Fuck the Vatican. They don't care about the age of consent now. They're still shuffling priests around.
Oh, I agree, totally.
Let them fuck. Let adults fuck, John. Let them fuck. Let them fuck.
When I was at college.
What is this story going to be to the end of? Are you going to come up with a good reason we shouldn't let adults fuck each other? Or are you just sharing another, here's who I know was fucking and I don't favor that?
I believe adults should do whatever they choose to do as long as they accept the consequences.
But you don't even know that. You're literally saying you don't actually want them to accept the consequences. You want them to accept the consequences you've made up and can't prove are actually consequences. John, if you stay on the phone for the next 5 seconds, you're going to get stabbed in the penis by Hank. I can't tell you when, but Hank the penis stabber is coming for you. Are you still on the phone? John, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, well, you accepted the consequence, so it'll be on you when you get stabbed in the penis.
But you can't prove that there won't be a problem.
You can't prove there won't be a penis stabber.
John, we don't care about your hypothetical.
It's so dumb.
John, I'm going to propose to you, John, I'm proposing to you a hypothetical afterlife. You only go there if you believe that afterlife exists, and yet you have no good reason to believe it. What do you do now?
But everyone has the right to have that faith.
But John, it's possible that... John, my God. John, you are presenting to us hypotheticals with no evidence. You're hand-waving at a bunch of different nations about their age of consent. What is your point? What do you want from us? Like, what is the point of this in your script?
He wants to meet
But
Hank.
there is a moral choice.
Say that again?
There is a moral choice.
Yeah. So what?
Then you have to be prepared to take the possible consequences of that choice.
And you have to prove the possible consequences are possible, but you never will because you can't.
No, I don't have to prove it.
Yes, you do.
Think about John. Think about my hypothetical afterlife. If my afterlife is true, you're going there because you believe in it. Why would you want to take that risk, John?
Your hypothesis is that if someone leads a wonderful life and helps people, and
that's all inconsequential. It doesn't matter what kind of life you lead. All that matters, whether you go into that afterlife or not, is whether you believe in it. And I have as much evidence as you do, which is zero.
But everyone
why would you
has
take
the
that risk,
choice to
John?
believe
Why
in
would
it.
you, John? Why would you take that risk of going to that afterlife by believing in it? Why would you take that silly risk when you don't have to? Make the choice, John.
Why is
Don't
it
believe in
silly?
it.
Why is
What?
it a silly risk?
It's a the hypothetical is silly. And your risk in believing that afterlife is the silly part, because don't believe in it. That'll make you not go there. Why take the silly risk of believing the afterlife that requires you to believe in to go there? Why even do that?
You have that choice if you want, and if you want to live your life according to certain principles, you have that
So
freedom.
I'm proposing an afterlife that you're going to go to if you believe in. You're proposing an afterlife for some other criterias. We have zero evidence.
Something isn't
neither
a
of our
freedom
afterlives can.
He just said something fundamentally untrue, though. It's not a freedom. If something, I don't have a freedom to do something if the result of doing it is going to prison. So if you're saying hell exists and I'll go there, then I don't have the freedom to have gay sex if doing so will send me to hell. I literally have the opposite. That's literally how all of our societies work. If they make a law against it, you still get to perform the activity, in most of them, before you actually go to prison for doing it. So what you said was fundamentally untrue. Sorry, I just had to cut in because what he said was such bullshit, but he can't prove that the fucking prison even exists.
So John, you might as well be threatening us. John, you might as well be threatening us with unicorns here. We don't care.
And that's your choice.
Yes.
But you don't have the right to say someone who thinks otherwise is lesser.
Yeah, I do. You're a lesser of a thinker. You are. And I actually have the right to say anything. I technically have the right to say, I think anyone who thinks otherwise should go to prison. Now, I don't actually believe that, but I have the right to say it.
I think people who believe in things that they can't demonstrate or show to be true are irrational, and they will believe in many things that don't exist. And I think you are one of those people.
It's so funny how often he says something and then we'll either say, I never said that when you repeat it word for word, or in this case, he said you don't have the right. And I said, I actually do have the right to say that or anything else. And he went, yes, of course you have the right. It's very funny. It's the guy just, anyway, I've now documented. This is Hank the penis stabber.
He has no eyes.
Hank, he doesn't need eyes. He's stabbing penises.
He just goes off of instinct. He just knows where to go. Yeah.
Hank, the penis stabber, lives by the sea. He's coming for your penis 'cause you wore a black tee. Hank, the penis stabber. Anyway, let's finish up with John. I'm so dumb.
I think we've been done with John.
And dumb. You good, John?
Yes, that's fine. I will just finish by saying, I do not believe that an atheist is lesser than a theist.
Great.
But it would appear you believe a theist is lesser than an atheist.
I think theists are lesser thinkers than many atheists.
John, don't do that to us. We think less of your ideas, not you as a person.
Yeah, lesser.
I have no idea.
Is not what
John,
the only thing I know.
John, the only thing I know about you is that you're irrational. You want to read from a script to have a conversation. You might be a great guy to have a beer with. I don't know. But I don't think less of you as a person. I think less of your ideas and your methods.
It's not great to have a beer with if you want somebody who's going to help you get laid. Don't do it. Don't do it, I say to you. Think of Hank, the penis stabber. John, I think that many theists are lesser thinkers than many atheists. I want to talk about the totality of anybody, but as far as the totality of your humanity, I think all humans are equal. Goodbye, everybody. Or goodbye, John. Not everybody, just John. Bye-bye.
Just the show right there.
Bye-bye, John.
I will continue to watch your show and find it interesting.
Bye, driver. Bye. Bye,
John,
driver.
Oh man, think of all the things, all the hypotheticals that could potentially threaten you, and imagine worrying about them. Like, how tiring can that be?
The penis stabber.
John picks that one. John picks that one because he has an emotional attachment to that particular hypothetical, that particular what if. And like, I don't understand. Like, why? Like, can't you see that this is either emotionally driven or, well, fear is emotion, but it's fear driven. Like, you have your choice. And if you make it, you're going to go to the hypothetical bad place that I'm proposing that I can't show at all. And I admit out of my own mouth, I have nothing to show you for. And we expect us to take that seriously. Like, how different is that from the Hank the Penis Stabber, or from the Islam Hell, or from,
Say it right.
I don't know what.
It's a song now. Say it right.
I wasn't even listening to your little song. I'm sorry. I am not musically inclined.
The Penis Stabber.
Yeah, okay.
Lived by the sea. All right. I'll let you have this one. Theist.
No, thank you.
But first I say, Brad in Australia, you're on the line with Jimmy Snow and Eric, and I'm going to give you to Eric after I make sure that you're aware that Jimmy Snow has a podcast.
And I'm not a penis stabber.
I'm aware. Thank you very much.
Cool. Are you afraid of Hank the Penis Stabber?
I'm fearful now.
All right. Good.
45 minutes.
Fearful of that song.
Vaccination, I think.
Here you go. You two have fun. I'm going to mute for a while.
All right.
I'm going in.
Hi, Brad. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. I just, I want to mention, with materialism, it does fantastic things with science, and it's a great way to go. But to limit yourself just to that, I think, and demanding evidence in a very aggressive way when, for example, like the hard problem. There's no evidence that mind can arise out of matter. And then what you do is you give an unfalsifiable excuse. Well, down the line they'll solve it. So there is some hypocrisy, and to me there's other modes of knowledge, aesthetic, instinctual, experiential is a huge one, that make our lives richer. And today with AI taking over everything, I think, I get where you guys are coming from and the problems with these other modes, but I'm just fearful that this materialism, there's a lot of problems with it, where it can, your brain is built for survival, not truth. Why do you trust it? All these things that you guys kind of just skid over, but they are enough for me to reject materialism. So, like, where do you come from?
Brad,
honestly,
Brad, sorry.
How do you solve that? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you're saying a lot of stuff there. So, Brad, I'm not sure what atheists you've been talking to, but I mean, there are some atheists that are philosophical naturalists, others are methodological naturalists. I'm the latter. I don't say that materialism is all that there is. All I know is that materialism is all that we can demonstrate and all we've ever observed. So, if following the pattern, I can reasonably expect materialism to continue to hold true, but I don't exclude the possibility that one day we will discover something that removes that as being the only explanation. Right.
I'm an artist. I can't prove ever that Moby Dick is a great experience, not just to read the summary, know the plot lines, but to actually experience that makes the human condition and society better. I can't prove that.
Well, that's a subjection. So Brad, that's a subjective thing based on an opinion. There's probably somebody out there who read Moby Dick and was worse off for it. So, like, we're talking about like objective reality here, not necessarily the effect reading a story has on somebody, which is subjective.
But you can't get to you don't have any authority over objective reality through your material.
I don't have any. When did I claim to have a hold on? When did anybody claim to have authority over objective reality? Who says that?
You're saying that that you have a standard of objective reality, that you can judge what's objective reality and what isn't. But you can't.
Right, because we invented the word objective and we have an idea behind it, and we invented the concept to describe the reality we see. So I don't understand, like, what do you mean we don't have authority over it?
What I'm saying is no model.
Is he driving?
No map is ever the
I think he is.
Hank,
yes,
Brad,
hands-free.
Brad, are you
pull
driving?
over.
Are you
No
driving right
driving.
now?
Hands free. I had to pick up my son. The last call took so long.
How long is it going to take you to get home, or somewhere where you can stop? We don't do these calls while people are driving.
Well, you don't do it even though it's hands free.
Correct. It's still distracted driving. It's not worth the risk for us.
I did not know that.
If you died, we get sued.
Yeah, I won't be able to do that.
All right.
Yeah, just I'd appreciate any answer. Thank you.
Great. Go ahead and answer off air now.
I mean, I already kind of gave me my response. Some of the stuff that he's saying that atheists say, I don't necessarily accept, but there are things that I definitely don't know. I'm a methodological naturalist. I don't know if the universe and all reality is essentially from the material. I don't know. Things seem to lean that way in my mind because that's all we ever see, but I can't eliminate the other possibilities. So yeah, you might be able to find somebody who does cling to a philosophical naturalism, and that might be a more interesting conversation, but that's not me. And I don't think it's Jimmy.
There's no solution for solipsism. People, it's in as much. All you are trying to complain about is that in some fucking solipsistic, pedantic, stupid way that how do we even know objectivity is a thing? And we don't. We can't truly know. But in as much as it seems we exist in this universe, and it seems there are individuals other than ourselves, and it seems that the universe exists, we have defined that which is verifiable by multiple sources with the assumption that all of those sources actually exist independent of us, all as our highest standard, as our objective standard. And the reason we do that is because we don't have any other choice. It is the only presupposition that I can truly get down with, because what is your choice otherwise? To do things without objective verification, to just try to walk on water because it's never been objectively verified to you that you can't, to try and swim when you don't know how to swim because you don't have good evidence that it's going to kill you, to go out into space without a spacesuit because you claim no objectivity exists. You only, as far as your daily survival goes, you're going to behave as though that objectivity exists. But then when it comes to these fucking questions about religion, that's when the pedantry shows up and people are just like, well, sure, I don't touch the stove because of my objective evidence that the stove is hot, and I don't put my hand in boiling water for the same reason, and I don't swim with sharks and with an open wound, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do this, all these things that you're not doing because of this objective verification, because you believe that this is confirmed. And yet when it comes to that standard, which is keeping you the fuck alive, you think, let's question the standard in and of itself when it comes to whether or not the magic man in the sky gives a shit about what I do with my penis and my butt. I don't know for a fact that Brad cares, but
it really does come down to, in many cases, not necessarily Brad is in this camp, but it's like, okay, we have this process and this methodology that works for literally everything that we do every day of our lives. But all of a sudden, when you go back far enough, for some reason, we can't no longer trust it. And sure, we can't see back past the Planck time. Mathematics breaks down. We don't know what else breaks down along with it. But that doesn't just give us license to say that, well, first of all, materialism can't account for it, and also that there must be something else that is there and involved. We simply don't know. And these are good conversations and questions to ask, but yeah, we just don't know. And until we have better methods or evidence or a better, more robust methodologies and philosophies to back it up, it's going to remain that way. So these conversations are good, but we're not making any declarations about what happens back there, and you shouldn't either.
I'm going to steal this quickly before he gets, because I didn't realize how long the caller has been waiting. Hey, Ethan, it's Jimmy Snow. I just saw how long you were waiting, so I interrupted the screener telling you that we weren't going to take you just because I felt bad for how long you took.
Oh, no, you don't have to do that. I'm sorry for causing you guys trouble. I was actually just listening to the show and then...
No, it's not trouble. It's not trouble. I just saw that you've been on a while, and I don't want to make you wait and listen, I paid for you to wait that long, so... At this point, it better be a good fucking... No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Ethan. What did you call with? We'll take you as our last call.
just some pleasantries to get out of the way. I've actually enjoyed the show this far. We talked like about a year ago. You were with Matt, I believe. I also left a message that you commented on around Christmas about my father watching a Jordan Peterson video and that making it a little bit more open to my atheism, and I would come out soon, which made me very happy to hear. So thank you very much for doing that. I have come out now, and that's what I wanted to talk about. My father knows about my atheism, and he has asked me to still go to church with him. In order for convenience as a logistical matter, because he can't like spend all the gas by going and picking me up, me avoiding church. And I'm planning on staying with church, and he's encouraged me to ask questions to the preacher. And I asked him questions in the car about the church. It was a horrible session. They talked about Taylor Swift being like the Antichrist, stuff like that. It was garbage. And I asked him why he still believed in that stuff.
Taylor
and
Swift
ultimately it went down to him saying that he couldn't believe that the universe was how do I put it? The universe doesn't make sense, and that we were living in a situation. And I guess that means he's a solipsist. And I don't know what to do with that, because if I'm dealing with someone who fundamentally doesn't believe in their own reality, I don't know how to like get past that. I was wondering if you guys had any. I know that Jimmy has some interesting history with like breaking out of religion and his like family doing stuff like that. So I wanted to hear your thoughts. And if it's a boring topic, then we could just hang up.
Well, it's just mostly the topic we just did. I'll let Eric go first, because I'm just going to repeat some version of what I literally just... I think you were on hold while I was ranting about it. I think you were talking to Margan, but I'll be basically repeating about the same thing. Go ahead, Eric.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
So the main contention is you are interacting with your dad. You're helping him build a church by transporting him there, and he invited you to interact with the preacher. And so you've been having a conversation with your dad. And I'm sorry, I missed the one part where you concluded that your dad was a solipsist. What exactly did your dad say to make you conclude he's a solipsist?
He said, he said that there were fundamental aspects of reality that didn't make sense to him, and that the idea is that the earth was going to burn up and that we would never like expand and grow and likely die on a broken world was a terrifying idea to him. And he thinks that we live in like a simulation, which that is solipsism, correct? If you believe you're in the Matrix.
Not
really. So solipsism is the position that yours is the only consciousness that exists, and that everything around you is either a manifestation of that consciousness, or simulation theory can probably fit it as well, where you're the only living conscious being in a simulation. Everything else around you is fake, essentially.
But it sounds like he believes in the simulation theory where everybody's conscious, not the singular consciousness one.
Right. I mean, I would start. With. Go ahead, Ethan.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if he thinks that I'm a figment of his imagination. I'm going to have to ask him that.
That's a good question. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, like good questions like that are things that make him actually like analyze the position he's holding. So the first comment you made that basically he says there's a fundamental aspect of reality or of the beginnings that he doesn't fully understand. You can ask some questions like, well, okay, can you not understand something, but that something still be a part of reality, or that something still be true? I would hope you would answer, yes, there's things I don't understand that actually exist and are things. Then if he says that, you can say, okay, well, how is it logically linked where if you don't understand something, then that thing must not be true, or that thing must be a simulation or not part of reality? Get him to justify the logical jumps he's making from one position to another, because I got a feeling that he is operating mostly on intuition, which we all do in a lot of cases. But for big questions like this, you need to actually like justify those leaps between I don't understand something, therefore that something doesn't exist, which is, the argument for incredulity. So that's like kind of the one thing you want to do is just kind of open him up with those questions and get him to justify those statements, not necessarily take them head on, get him to justify them, because the burden of proof is on him. What was the after the fundamental aspects of reality? You mentioned something about him understanding something. Sorry, it's late in the day. My brain's slowing down, so I can't take as many notes. What was the second thing he said to you?
He said that the fact that we were likely not going to be able to exit the Earth and that we died here was a very scary thought to him, and it didn't make sense. and somehow he attributed that to like having
Right.
a supernatural kind of matrix out of reality thing.
So again, you can ask him
Doesn't
questions
make
like,
sense to
okay,
me.
you can ask him questions like, okay, can something be really uncomfortable to think about, but still it's going to happen? Like, let's say everybody has a family member or friend who probably got diagnosed with cancer. Like, if you get diagnosed with cancer and the doctor says you're going to die, does the fact that that's an uncomfortable idea somehow make that not a reality in your future? And hopefully he answers correctly in that, yeah, no, my emotional state has no bearing on what the reality will be about, this cancer diagnosis. Same thing can be applied to the earth eventually burning up, us not be able to get off of it, which is the earth burning up is probably pretty set in stone. We know the sun's going to expand into a red giant and consume us, or the earth rather, but we don't know if we can't get off the planet or not. Like, that's a lot of time between now and then. So the fact that he's even making those conclusions, he's not thinking it through all the way. He's jumping to a worst case scenario and saying, I don't like this worst case scenario, then it must not be true, or I must have some other solution that gets me out of this uncomfortable position. And that's probably why he's lashing to God. Make him justify those things. Ask him, what's the logical links between this position, therefore this other position? And lastly, the solipsism thing, that can be a tougher thing to kind of get out of his head, because solipsism, heart solipsism, is pretty much unfalsifiable. Because if I'm sitting here or he's sitting there saying I'm in a solipsist type of reality where I'm the only consciousness, literally everything that's fed to me in my senses is just a product of my own brain. Doesn't matter how much sense it makes, doesn't matter how much it debunks my position, it's all coming from my own brain. Therefore, it just reinforces it. So that can be a problematic thing to get to. So my question to you would be, does he still treat you as a good father, or is he still a good father in the way he treats you? Does he treat you as a beloved son? Does he make decisions that operate within this reality, that considers this reality and the consequences in this reality? And if he's doing all of those things, then it may not be a thing you necessarily have to contend with, as long as he's treating this reality seriously. That's my 2 cents. But Jimmy, you got anything on that?
I'll let it go ahead, Ethan.
Go ahead, Ethan, if you want to reply to what I just said.
If you want my honest opinions of my dad, he's one of my favorite people. He did have a lot of rough spots in my childhood, but he's gotten better. And I don't know if I should attribute that to his religiosity, if that's the right word for it, because recently he has become more spiritually influenced and become a better father to me and my younger brothers. He's one of my favorite people, and he treats me like a person, even though it was a very confusing experience. Hear him essentially say that he didn't believe the world existed, and it's kind of got me worried for him.
I gotcha. Well, I mean, good and bad there. At least he's treating you like you should be treated as a son. And you obviously, from what I can hear from your voice, you obviously are concerned about him, and you are care about a good conversation with him. You might be a case where you have to just pick your battles, and if you don't think that's necessarily going to interfere with him operating as a father should, maybe don't approach it. But now that you've said even more of that, I really like your original question about, you should ask him, am I just a manifestation of your own mind? Do you think that I actually exist? Because that will definitely stir some emotions in him, but hopefully in a way that makes him think a little bit harder about the question. Because if he doesn't like that answer, then maybe he'll examine it a little bit more.
Additional question might be,
I'll probably try that.
If, say you were convinced, say a person actually was, but we can't prove it, how should that change their life? How should you behave differently with that belief, even if it's an unproved belief, or should you behave differently at all? But then I would also go to point out that it's not true that they don't believe that they really exist. It's not true that they don't believe that there is some sort of objective reality, kind of as I was just mentioning, because every single fucking act they take in some way verifies that they do believe that they are existing in an objective state. That if they are walking somewhere, that it is their understanding, because of repeated experience and verification from others, that putting another foot forward will close the distance between you and a spot, which seems intuitive to us, but it's because it's something that we've accepted as an objective reality. Because many things which are objective, if you merely lack the sense, suddenly it's inconceivable. For example, I watched a guy, they were trying to explain to him recently, who was blind, that if you have say you hold up an orange and you move it away from you, as it goes in the distance, the orange gets smaller in your field of vision. And this is an individual who had never, ever seen before. He doesn't experience blackness. He experiences nothing, because that's in the same way if you try to like look out the back of your head right now, it's not that where the back of your head's vision would be. It's that there's nothing. The outside the edges of your vision, you have nothing. It's nothing there, not blackness. And so he's only ever had nothing and couldn't conceive of this thing that's fundamentally obvious to us, because those demonstrations of objectivity is what influences us. He clearly believed the universe existed in some way, and that the best method to communicate to you how he doesn't believe it was by the verifiable means of communication that objective facts he has accepted, at least internally, that to communicate to you, he should do so by speaking words that he agrees has meaning between the two of you, that this is a language. It's their very actions betray them, that it's only when they want to get to these abstractions, which are going to somehow give them eternal life or this extreme spirituality, all of their life, all of the literal things they are doing all the time is on the basis of their accepted objective experience. But then when they get thoughtful about what more they want there to be, or what different they want there to be than what is reality, that's when these abstractions get into the problems of solipsism. And at the end of the day, if you can't tell, it's kind of like free will. Whether we have free will or not, whether it's an illusion, the illusion is indistinguishable from the real thing. So you're just going to operate as though you do, even if you're sure we don't. Except for that one, there's actually pretty good arguments for that we don't. There are no good arguments for that we actually do live in a simulation.
Jimmy, make me want to punch my fist in the air.
Yo. How do you like that, Eric?
Can I ask a half question, or is it about time not to?
Make it quick. I'm ready to go.
My father also encouraged me to talk to my pastor and ask him questions. Do you think that's a good idea? Like in the church?
I don't care if you do it, unless you feel like you are susceptible to. But I don't care. It should be up to you, Ethan. Do you want to do it?
I want to do it, but I'm worried that it might be like an attacking angle. This is a call-in show, not like a call-out show.
Yeah, I get it.
Thing. So I don't want to push on that and potentially embarrass them.
Well, if you have an invitation to be there, it's up to you if you want to accept it.
I guess that's true.
It's fun to embarrass them.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for taking extra time.
No, you're fine. Don't apologize.
You're good. If you do ask that pastor questions, Ethan, think them through ahead of time. Be sure they're structured in a way that are very clear, like true dichotomy questions, good questions, or yes, no questions, either or questions. Mm-hmm. And because you can find all kinds of internal contradictions in Christianity if you just kind of sit there and think about it and ask the right questions. So you can have some fun doing it, but it really comes down to whether you want to or not, whether you want to be in that position or not, put them in that position or not, whether it's public or private or all that. So
and then tell that pastor to call our show.
Should I actually do that?
Fuck yeah. All of you who know super religious people that are loud about it, everyone, tell your friends to call these shows. Don't trick them into it. Tell them what they're calling. But
what I was thinking, I had this idea of getting like a QR code with your with the call-in show on it.
Hell yeah.
Putting it places. I didn't know if that would be legal or not.
Yeah, fuck. You want to market for us for free? Yeah, let me call my lawyers and sue you.
I walk around downtown Seattle. I walk around downtown Seattle and I see random QR codes all the time, like on light poles and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't scan them, but they're there.
Fucking on coffee shop boards, all that kind of. I thought you were saying you didn't know if it was if it was copyrighted. I see what you mean now. All right, I got you. Yeah, Ethan. Who cares? The age of consenting to put up posters is 12 in 1999. So.
But only in France.
But you
in
don't
England,
know.
it's 16.
Yeah.
I'll just say the penis stabber is definitely going to be stuck in my mind for a while. So thank you very much for that, Jimmy.
You're welcome, Ethan. You have a good night.
Yep. I think we'll all be thinking of that tonight.
Go find Skeptics and Scoundrels on YouTube and patreon.com/Skeptics and Scoundrels. You can also go to patreon.com/call the line if you want to support this channel and all the things we do and hear the supporter exclusive podcast. And you can go to patreon.com/Jimmy Snow. If you want to support Jimmy Snow has a podcast, and we do bonus shows over there. I just did one with Sarah Gibson. Ended up being fucking hilarious. We were only going to do it for a few minutes. I ended up going for a half hour. Eric, I won't subject you to the stuff we did last time, though if we were ending earlier, I probably would. So instead of that, why don't you just see if you can read all of these names fast enough as they scroll?
Oh my God. And you have control of the speed of the music, don't you?
No. Go for it. Go. Get them. All of them.
Captain Ribble, Kathleen Moncleve, Stephen Kudros, Armageddon, Larry. Okay, whatever. Larry Fishman.
Just do first name. Go.
All right, fine. Well, I can just watch this on YouTube and just pause it.
No.
Larry Fishman, Brian Zerb, Kelly Evan, Olaf Conrad Paul, Jackie Greenland, Trent Oliphant, Dren Double Dub, Galaxy Man 215, Bethany P, Tess Shelby, Jenny Ferguson, Panda, Mark Ralph, Ryan Phillips, Dan Giacobe, the T's covered up, Hamas, Hendrick, Bamble, Best. Okay, well, I give up. I'm gonna
keep reading.
No. I'm very dyslexic. Podcast Snow has a Jimmy?
That's not what dyslexia
Podcast Snow,
is.
that doesn't make any sense at all. Podcast
That's not
Snow
what
has
that
a
is.
Jimmy.